This title is presented to you by Soundlibra.com. For more audiobooks like this, click the link in the description or visit our website at Soundlibra.com. Welcome to Small Talk Mastery. We unlock secrets to building genuine connections.
And I'm Lisa. Today, we begin our journey into the art of small talk.
Just a quick heads up before we jump in. While we're discussing communication and social confidence, this is for educational purposes and isn't a substitute for professional mental health advice or therapy.
That's a great point. Now, for many, small talk conjures images of awkward silences and forced conversations. But what if I told you small talk is the foundation upon which all meaningful connections are built?
Many listeners might be skeptical. They might think of it as superficial, a way to pass the time rather than a tool for connection.
That's a common misconception. We often dismiss small talk as insignificant, but these casual interactions open the door to deeper relationships. Think of building a house. You need a solid foundation. Small talk is that essential first layer.
So, it's not about the quantity of words, but the quality of intent.
Exactly. It's about extending a hand, showing interest, and creating a comfortable bridge between two people. It's less about the topic and more about the act of connecting. It signals friendliness and approachability.
I can see that. When someone starts a casual conversation, it feels less intimidating than diving into a heavy topic right away.
Precisely. And that brings us to the first hurdle: fear and reluctance. Does approaching a stranger, or even an acquaintance, fill you with dread?
Oh, absolutely. There's the fear of saying the wrong thing, of being judged, of not being interesting enough. It can feel like stepping onto a stage without knowing your lines.
That's a perfect analogy. Many feel they need witty remarks or profound insights. But simple, genuine interactions are far more powerful. We're going to explore how to overcome that fear by understanding the simple mechanics of opening up.
So, for our listeners feeling that apprehension, what's the very first step? Where do we begin if small talk feels daunting?
The very first step, and this is crucial, is to reframe your understanding of what small talk is. Instead of seeing it as a test or a performance, view it as an opportunity for discovery. Every conversation, no matter how brief, is a chance to learn something new about another person and, in turn, about yourself.
An opportunity for discovery. I like that. It shifts the focus from pressure to curiosity.
Absolutely. And when you're curious, your genuine interest shines through. People can sense when you're truly engaged. It's like a magnetic force. Think about a time someone showed genuine interest in you, even about something small. How did that make you feel?
It made me feel seen, valued, like my thoughts or experiences mattered, even if they were just about the weather or what I was doing that weekend.
And that's the power of small talk. It's that feeling of being acknowledged. It's the spark that can ignite a friendship, build rapport with a colleague, or simply make a day brighter. It's about finding those small points of connection that say, I see you, and I'm open to interacting with you.
So, is there a difference between small talk and meaningful connection? I'm still a bit unclear on how one leads to the other.
That's an excellent question. Small talk is the process, and meaningful connection is the outcome. Small talk is the initial handshake, the glancing exchange. It's about finding common ground, even if that's simply acknowledging the present moment or a shared environmental observation. As you get comfortable with these initial exchanges, you build a foundation of trust and familiarity.
And then you can build upon that foundation, right? You can then move to slightly more personal topics or deeper discussions.
Precisely. It's a gradual escalation. You wouldn't ask for someone's deepest secrets on the first meeting, but you might ask about their favorite book, their hobbies, or their thoughts on a current event. Small talk creates the space for those more personal exchanges to feel natural and welcome. It's about cultivating comfort.
So, in essence, small talk breaks down barriers and humanizes us to each other, making us more approachable and receptive to forming deeper bonds.
You've got it. And throughout this series, we're going to break down exactly how to do this. We'll explore practical techniques for initiating conversations, active listening skills that make people feel heard, and how to navigate those moments where the conversation might feel a little thin. We'll also touch on how to gracefully transition from small talk to more significant conversations.
It sounds like this series will be a roadmap for anyone who wants to feel more confident and connected in their daily interactions.
That's the goal. We want to demystify the process and empower you to see small talk not as a chore, but as a powerful tool for enriching your life. We'll look at how to find common ground, how to ask questions that spark genuine interest, and how to share your own stories in a way that resonates with others.
And we'll also address those moments of awkwardness because they happen to everyone. Learning to navigate those can be just as valuable as leading a perfect conversation.
Absolutely. Being comfortable with a little bit of silence or a slightly misdirected comment is part of the art. It's about resilience and grace. So, to recap our first episode, we've introduced the idea that small talk is not superficial, but rather the essential foundation for building meaningful connections. It's an opportunity for discovery and a way to signal friendliness and approachability.
And overcoming that initial fear starts with reframing small talk as a chance to be curious, rather than feeling like you have to perform.
Precisely. The power of these simple exchanges lies in making others feel seen and valued. It's the spark that can lead to anything from a pleasant acquaintance to a lifelong friendship.
This is going to be an exciting journey. For listeners who feel that hesitation, remember, it's okay. We'll guide you every step of the way.
Indeed. And next time, we'll dive deeper into practical strategies for breaking the ice. We'll explore your first steps into initiating those all-important small talk conversations. Next episode, Breaking the Ice, Your First Steps.
Welcome back. Last time we covered the power of small talk. Now let's tackle breaking the ice.
That initial moment. It's where so many people feel that flutter of anxiety. You see someone you'd like to talk to, and your mind instantly goes blank. What do you say? How do you even start?
Exactly, Lisa. Many people envision it as some grand, witty opening. But the truth is, breaking the ice is about making a simple, genuine connection. It's about lowering the barrier to entry for a conversation. Think of it like this. Small talk is the door, and breaking the ice is the gentle push to open it.
That's a great analogy. So, what are some of those gentle pushes? What are some go-to phrases or approaches that are easy to remember and use?
Let's start with the absolute easiest, observation. You're in a situation, and there's something happening around you. Comment wait. It could be the weather, yes, really, or an event, or even just the environment. For example, if you're at a conference, you could say, wow, this is a fantastic turnout, isn't it?
Oh, that's so simple. It acknowledges something you're both experiencing. It's not a direct question that puts someone on the spot, but it invites a response.
Precisely. Or if you're at a social gathering and notice someone is wearing an interesting piece of clothing or jewelry, you can remark on that. That's a really unique scarf, or I love your watch. Where did you find it? This not only opens a conversation, but also offers a genuine compliment, which most people appreciate.
And that leads us to compliments. Are there any rules to offering compliments effectively? You mentioned genuine.
The key is genuine, as you said. Avoid flattery that feels forced or over the top. Focus on something specific. Instead of, you look nice, try that tie really suits you, or I really like the point you made in your presentation earlier. It shows you've been paying attention. Compliments are powerful icebreakers because they often create immediate goodwill.
So, observation and genuine compliments. What else can we use? What about situations where there isn't much to observe, or you don't feel comfortable commenting on someone's attire?
That's where shared context comes in handy, especially in professional or organized settings. If you're at an event, you can ask about their connection to it. How do you know the host? Or what brings you to this particular seminar? This is a natural way to understand their background and find potential common ground.
That's really effective for networking events. I can see that. It's focused on the shared purpose of being there.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of a simple, friendly question related to the immediate situation. If you're waiting in line for coffee, looks like a busy morning, huh? If you're at a park, isn't this a beautiful day for a walk? These are low stakes, relatable comments that invite a brief exchange.
It's about finding a small hook, isn't it? Something to latch onto that isn't too personal or demanding.
Exactly. Another technique is to offer a little bit of relevant, light information about yourself or your own experience. For instance, if you're at a farmer's market and you're looking at a particular vegetable, you might say to someone standing nearby, I love these heirloom tomatoes. They're especially good roasted. This isn't a demand for their opinion, but an invitation to share if they wish.
So, you're essentially giving someone something to respond to, a piece of information that's easy to react to. It's like tossing a friendly ball their way.
A friendly ball, I like that. And sometimes the best icebreaker is simply introducing yourself. In professional settings, or when you know you'll likely have to interact, a straightforward, Hi, I'm Alex, is perfectly acceptable. You can then follow up with a question based on the context, like, Hi, I'm Alex. Are you here for the keynote speaker?
That direct approach feels less intimidating when you phrase it as perfectly acceptable. I think many people feel they need a more elaborate opening than just their name.
It's true, but remember, the goal is to start the conversation. A simple introduction followed by a context-related question is a complete, functioning icebreaker. It's like laying the first brick. You don't need the whole wall built at once.
So, to recap what we've discussed for breaking the ice. First, we have observation. Commenting on your shared environment, the weather, an event, or even something noticeable about the person, like an accessory. Second, genuine compliments. Focusing on specifics and making sure they feel sincere. Third, leveraging shared context. Asking about their connection to the event or situation you're both in. Fourth, simple, situational questions relating to the immediate environment or activity. Fifth, sharing light, relevant information about yourself to invite a response. And finally, the direct introduction, especially in professional settings, often followed by a context-based question.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. All of these techniques are designed to be low pressure for both parties. They're not demanding a deep disclosure or a witty retort. They're simply ways to signal openness and a willingness to engage.
It sounds like overcoming that initial fear is the biggest hurdle. Once you pick one of these simple methods, the rest of the conversation can flow more naturally.
That's absolutely the psychological barrier. We often overthink it. The reality is, most people are receptive to a friendly overture. They might be feeling the same hesitations you are. So, by taking the initiative, you're often doing them a favor too.
It's like dipping your toe in the water instead of diving headfirst.
Exactly. And if a conversation doesn't quite take off, that's okay. Not every icebreaker leads to a deep connection, and that's perfectly natural. The goal is practice and building confidence. Each attempt, successful or not, is a learning experience.
So the advice is to try these out. Don't aim for perfection, aim for participation.
Precisely. Pick one or two techniques that feel most comfortable to you and try to use them this week. Perhaps in a place where the stakes feel low, like at the grocery store or a casual coffee shop. The more you practice, the more natural it will become.
And we'll build on this in the next episode when we talk about active listening, which is what you do after you've successfully broken the ice.
That's right. Breaking the ice is the first step. Listening is what keeps the conversation alive and turns that initial connection into something meaningful.
So, to recap this episode, we've learned that breaking the ice is about making a simple, genuine connection. We discussed several effective, low pressure methods: observation, genuine compliments, leveraging shared context, simple situational questions, sharing light personal information, and direct introductions. The key is practice and overcoming the initial hesitation.
And remember, every small step forward builds confidence. Give it a try. Next episode, The Art of Active Listening. Welcome back. Last time, we dove into the foundations of small talk and how essential it is for breaking the ice. Now, let's shift our focus to something equally, if not more important, the art of active listening.
That's right, Alex. We often think of conversation as a performance, where we're waiting for our cue to speak. But truly connecting with someone involves being fully present and engaged when they're talking. It's about listening to understand, not just to reply.
Exactly, Lisa. Active listening is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned and improved. It's about giving the speaker your undivided attention, showing them you value their thoughts and feelings. Think of it like this. If small talk is throwing a ball, active listening is about catching it with care and understanding where it came from.
I like that analogy. So, how do we actually do active listening? What are the key components?
Great question. At its core, active listening involves a few key practices. First, we need to demonstrate that we are paying attention. This involves both verbal and nonverbal cues. Nonverbally, things like making appropriate eye contact, nodding occasionally, and facing the speaker can signal that you're with them. Avoid distractions. Put away your phone. Close unnecessary tabs if you're in a virtual setting.
So, it's about your body language and focus. What about the verbal side? It feels like just saying, isn't enough.
You're absolutely right. Verbal cues can significantly enhance active listening. These are often called minimal encouragers. Things like, I see, go on, or tell me more. They're short phrases that let the speaker know you're tracking with them without interrupting their flow. They're like little affirmations that say, I'm here and I'm listening.
That makes sense. It's about prompting them to continue without taking over the conversation. So, we're paying attention, using minimal encouragers, and what else?
The next crucial element is to avoid interrupting. This is a big one. We all have the urge to jump in, to share our own related experience, or to offer a solution. But truly active listening means letting the speaker finish their thoughts completely, even if there's a natural pause. It shows respect for their space and their narrative.
This is often the hardest part for me. Sometimes, when someone is talking about a challenge, I immediately think of a time I faced something similar and I want to share, thinking I'm being helpful.
It's a common impulse, Lisa, and it comes from a good place, a desire to connect. But in active listening, our primary goal is to understand their experience, not immediately relate our own. We can share our experiences later, once they've fully expressed themselves. Sometimes just being heard is all someone needs.
So, to recap so far, we're giving undivided attention, using nonverbal cues like eye contact and nodding, employing minimal encouragers verbally, and crucially, avoiding interruptions. What's next?
The next step is about ensuring genuine understanding. This is where techniques like paraphrasing and reflecting come in. Paraphrasing means restating what you've heard in your own words. For example, if someone is talking about feeling overwhelmed at work, you might say, so, if I'm understanding correctly, you're feeling swamped with deadlines and it's causing a lot of stress.
Ah, that's powerful. It forces you to process what they've said and rephrase it, which not only helps you clarify your understanding but also confirms to the speaker that they've been truly heard. And reflecting is similar, right?
Yes, reflecting is a bit deeper. It involves not just summarizing their words, but also acknowledging the underlying emotions they might be expressing. So, after paraphrasing, you might add something like, that sounds really tough, or it seems like that's making you feel quite frustrated. It's about tuning into the emotional tone of their message, not just the factual content.
This is really shifting my perspective. It's not just about hearing the words, but about empathizing with the feelings behind those words. It sounds like active listening is very much about empathy.
It absolutely is. Empathy is the engine of connection, and active listening is the fuel. By paraphrasing and reflecting, you're demonstrating that you're not just passively receiving information, but actively trying to grasp their perspective and emotional state. This builds trust and rapport incredibly quickly.
So, we're paying attention, not interrupting, paraphrasing to confirm understanding, and reflecting to acknowledge emotions. Is there anything else to this art form?
Yes, one more critical aspect, asking clarifying questions. Once you've paraphrased and reflected, and you still feel there's more to understand, or a point needs further explanation, ask open-ended questions. Instead of, did you like the movie? Ask, what did you enjoy most about the movie? Or how did that experience make you feel? These questions encourage deeper sharing and demonstrate your genuine curiosity.
Open-ended questions are great for drawing people out. They invite more than a yes or no answer. So, let's summarize the core of active listening as we've discussed. Undivided attention with good nonverbal cues, using minimal encouragers, avoiding interruptions, paraphrasing to confirm you've understood, reflecting to acknowledge emotions, and asking clarifying, open-ended questions.
Exactly, Lisa. It's a comprehensive approach. When you practice active listening, you're not just being polite, you're actively building a bridge to the other person's world. You're showing them they matter and that their voice is important. This fundamental skill underpins all meaningful conversation and connection, from casual chats to deeper relationships.
It's about creating a safe space for the other person to express themselves fully. When you feel truly heard, you're more likely to open up, to be vulnerable, and to trust.
Precisely. And the beauty of active listening is that it's reciprocal. When you consistently listen well, others are more likely to listen well to you. It creates a positive feedback loop for better communication all around. It transforms conversations from a transaction into a genuine exchange.
So, for our listeners this week, the challenge is to consciously practice these techniques. In your next few conversations, focus on one or two elements. Maybe it's just avoiding an interruption or trying to paraphrase what someone said. Start small and build from there.
That's an excellent way to approach it. Don't try to master everything at once. Pick one aspect and really focus on integrating it into your interactions. Remember, active listening isn't just about what you say or don't say. It's about your entire presence and intent to understand.
It's about shifting from being a speaker to being a receiver, and doing so with intention and care. Amazing how much richer our interactions can become when we truly listen.
Indeed, we'll continue building on these connection building skills in our next episode. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Today, we're exploring the silent language.
Last time, we delved into active listening. Today, we're adding another powerful layer, nonverbal cues.
Exactly. Nonverbal cues are how we communicate without words. Think body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice. These signals often reveal more than spoken words.
It's like a parallel conversation. I've experienced this, where someone's words seemed fine, but their crossed arms and averted gaze told a different story. They weren't truly engaged.
That's a perfect example. We'll learn how to read these signals to understand interest, comfort, and engagement, building on the attentive listening from episode 3.
So, how do we begin interpreting this silent language? Body language seems like a good starting point.
It is. Let's start with posture. An open posture, with relaxed shoulders and facing the speaker, signals receptiveness and comfort.
Conversely, crossed arms and looking away might suggest a closed off or disinterested feeling.
Precisely. But remember, these are indicators, not strict rules. Context is key. Someone might cross their arms because they're cold. The goal is to look for patterns and changes in behavior.
That's a crucial reminder. We're aiming for observation, not mind reading. What else falls under body language?
Gestures. Open palms often signal honesty, while pointing can feel aggressive. Imagine someone explaining with palms up. That suggests sincerity. Pointing fingers, however, can feel accusatory.
And eye contact? We know it's important, but what does it truly convey?
Appropriate eye contact shows engagement and builds connection. Too much can feel aggressive. Too little might suggest shyness, discomfort, or even dishonesty, though culture and personality matter.
So, a natural rhythm of looking at the person, then briefly looking away and back, is ideal?
That's a good guideline. It shows you're present without being overwhelming. Now, let's consider facial expressions. Our faces are incredibly expressive.
A smile, a frown, they communicate so much emotion instantly.
Indeed, a genuine smile, one that reaches the eyes, involves more facial muscles than a polite smile. It's harder to fake. Polite smiles often lack that natural eye crinkle.
So, if someone says they're fine but their brow is furrowed and their eyes aren't showing that natural warmth, it suggests they aren't actually fine?
Exactly. Keep an eye out for fleeting, involuntary flashes of true emotion that can reveal feelings before someone masks them. These are sometimes called microexpressions.
Microexpressions. That sounds fascinating. So, we have body language, facial expressions, and what about the sound of our voice?
That's paralanguage. It's not just what you say, but how you say it, your tone, pitch, speed, and volume. A flat, monotone, that's great, likely means the opposite of the words themselves.
I recognize that. Sarcasm often comes through in the tone, making a compliment feel insincere.
Precisely. A higher pitch can signal excitement or nervousness. A deeper pitch might suggest confidence. Speaking too quickly could mean anxiety, while speaking too slowly might signal boredom.
So, combining this with active listening from last episode, we're not just hearing words, we're observing body language, facial cues, and vocal nuances.
You've got it. Active listening and nonverbal cues work together. Are their words matching their body language? Does their tone align with their expressions? Are they maintaining comfortable eye contact?
It's about forming a complete picture. If all signals align positively, you can be confident. If there's a mismatch, like positive words with closed-off body language, it's a cue to gently probe further.
Absolutely. Think of these observations as your navigator. They help you understand if you're on the right conversational path or need to adjust. Are they leaning and indicating interest or subtly pulling back, suggesting discomfort?
To recap, nonverbal communication includes body language, facial expressions, and paralanguage. By paying attention, we gain a richer understanding of someone's true feelings beyond their words.
Excellent summary. Remember, this skill improves with practice. Start by being more aware in everyday interactions. Notice the little things.
It's about becoming more attuned to the human connection.
Exactly. That concludes episode 4. Next time, we'll focus on finding common ground to build genuine connections.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. In our last episode, we dove deep into active listening. Now, remember why that's so important? It's the foundation for everything else we're building.
Absolutely, Alex. Active listening helps us understand the other person. But sometimes, even when we're listening well, the conversation can feel a bit disconnected. We might be talking at each other rather than with each other.
Exactly. And that's where today's topic comes in. We're talking about finding common ground. Think of it as becoming a navigator in conversation. Your job isn't just to steer the ship, it's to chart a course that both you and your conversational partner want to travel.
Finding common ground. It sounds so simple when you say it, but how do we actually do it? I often feel like I'm just throwing out random questions, hoping something sticks.
That's a great way to put it, Lisa. And it's a common feeling. The key is to shift from random questions to intentional exploration. Common ground isn't just about finding a hobby you both enjoy, like liking the same sports team. It's broader. It can be shared values, similar experiences, or even just a mutual appreciation for something.
So, it's not just about what do you like to do on weekends?
Precisely. While that's a starting point, we want to go deeper. How do we do that? One powerful technique is what I like to call interest stacking. When someone mentions something they enjoy, try to stack related interests on top of it.
Interest stacking. I like that. So, if someone says they love hiking, what's a good stack?
Well, hiking often involves nature, fitness, exploration, and sometimes even a sense of adventure. So you could follow up with, oh, hiking. That's fantastic. Do you enjoy being out in nature generally? Or is it more about the physical challenge for you? Or have you discovered any particularly breathtaking trails recently? You're building on their initial statement.
That makes so much sense. You're showing you heard them, and you're genuinely curious about the why behind their interest. It creates a pathway to explore more.
It does. And this extends beyond hobbies. Think about shared experiences. Have you ever noticed how people bond over commiserating about traffic or celebrating a common local event? These are forms of common ground. If you're at a conference, for instance, and someone mentions a specific speaker they enjoyed, you can say, oh, yes, their point about X really resonated with me. What was your biggest takeaway from their talk?
That's a good one. It's about finding that shared reaction or perspective. It validates their opinion and opens the door for them to elaborate. It makes them feel understood.
Exactly. And that feeling of being understood is crucial for building rapport. Another way to find common ground is by observing and asking about the environment you're in. If you're at a party, you might comment on the music, the food, or the decorations. This is a lovely venue, isn't it? Have you been here before?
Right. It's a low-risk way to connect. You're not asking for deeply personal information, but you are inviting a shared observation or opinion. It's like you're jointly experiencing the moment.
You've got it. And this brings us to something even more profound, shared values. This is where conversations can really deepen. Think about times you've connected with people over a shared belief in community service, environmental sustainability, or the importance of education.
That can be a bit trickier, though. How do you steer a casual conversation towards values without sounding preachy or confrontational?
That's the art of the navigator. It's not about stating your values, but about discovering theirs and seeing where they align. One way is through storytelling. When you share a brief, relevant personal story that touches on a value, it invites the other person to share their own related experiences or perspectives.
So, instead of saying, I really care about volunteering, you might say, I spent last Saturday helping out at the local animal shelter. It was so rewarding to see the impact we could make in just a few hours.
Perfect example, Lisa. You're sharing an action driven by your value. This subtly invites them to share their own experiences with community involvement or perhaps their thoughts on why such activities are important. You're creating an opening for them to say, oh, I've been meaning to volunteer too, or that's wonderful. I feel strongly about supporting local causes.
It's like planting seeds, isn't it? You put out something genuine, and you see if they blossom into something shared.
A beautiful analogy. And remember, finding common ground isn't about pretending to agree or share interests you don't have. Authenticity is key. It's about being curious enough to discover potential connections.
So, to recap what we've covered today, finding common ground is like being a navigator in conversation. We want to move beyond superficial chat into something more meaningful. We can do this through techniques like interest stacking, where we build on someone's stated interest with related questions.
We also talked about leveraging shared experiences, whether it's a common event or a shared environment. And importantly, We touched upon exploring shared values, not by directly stating them, but by sharing authentic stories that hint at our values and invite reciprocal sharing.
It's about actively seeking those points of connection, those sailing routes that you and the other person can travel together. It makes conversations richer, deeper, and more enjoyable for everyone.
And when you find that common ground, conversations transform. They move from polite exchanges to genuine exchanges. You're no longer just filling time, you're building a bridge. And that bridge is the start of a stronger connection.
So, next time you're in a conversation, wear your navigator's hat. Be curious, listen actively, and look for those opportunities to chart a course together on shared interests, experiences, and values.
Well said, Lisa. And that brings us to the end of episode 5. We've learned about the power of finding common ground. Next time, we'll build on this by exploring the art of asking the right questions, the openers and the explorers that really get conversations flowing. Next episode, asking the right questions, openers and explorers. Welcome back. Last time, we explored finding common ground, that crucial bridge that helps two people connect.
Absolutely, Alex. Finding that shared interest is like discovering a little oasis. But how do you keep the conversation flowing and truly get to know someone? That's where today's topic comes in.
Today, we're diving deep into the power of asking the right questions. We'll focus on openers and explorers, questions that invite someone to share more, to open up their world.
So, we're moving beyond the quick, how are you? Or did you have a good weekend? Which often get a polite but uninspired response.
Precisely. Those are closed questions. They often lead to a simple yes or no, or a very short answer. They're good for confirming something, but not for building rapport. Think of them like a locked door. You can see it, but you can't get inside.
I see. So, what are the alternatives? What's the key to opening that door?
The key is open-ended questions. These are questions that start with words like what, how, or phrases that invite an explanation. They encourage the other person to elaborate, to share their thoughts, feelings, and experiences. They're like an invitation to explore.
Okay, so instead of asking, did you enjoy the conference? I could ask, what was the most interesting thing you learned at the conference?
That's a perfect example, Lisa. See how that immediately shifts the focus? You're asking for a specific takeaway, an insight. This gives the other person a chance to think about their experience and share something meaningful. Another approach is to use tell me about. For instance, tell me about something exciting that happened at the conference.
That feels much more inviting. It's like I'm genuinely curious about their experience, not just ticking a box.
You've hit on a crucial point, genuine curiosity. When you ask open-ended questions with real interest, people feel valued and heard. This is the foundation of strong connections. Let's think about how these explorers work. They often start by asking about experiences, opinions, or feelings.
Can you give us some more examples of these explorer questions?
Certainly, instead of asking, are you busy at work? Try what's keeping you engaged at work these days? Or how do you approach a typical day at your job? These kinds of questions might reveal challenges, passions, or unique strategies they use.
And what if you're talking to someone you've just met?
That's where those initial openers come in. Think about the context. If you're at an event, you can ask, what brings you to this event today? Or what are you hoping to get out of this gathering? These are great for understanding their motivations and interests in that specific setting.
I like that. It's context specific and opens up a discussion about their goals.
Exactly. Or if you've just shared something about yourself, you can use that as a springboard. If you mention you're trying a new recipe, you could ask, have you been experimenting with cooking lately? Or what's a favorite dish you've discovered? This circles back to finding common ground, but with a question that encourages them to share.
So we're using open-ended questions to both discover new things and to build on existing connections.
That's right. And it's not just about the initial question. It's also about what you do with the answer. When someone shares, listen actively, as we discussed in episode 3. Ask follow-up questions. If they say, I'm working on a challenging project, a good follow-up could be, oh, that sounds interesting. What makes it challenging? Or how are you finding that experience?
So, the initial open-ended question gets them talking, and then your thoughtful follow-up questions keep the conversation unfolding, like peeling back layers of an onion.
That's a great analogy, Lisa. You're encouraging them to share more detail, more nuance. This shows you're truly engaged and interested in understanding them. Think about it this way. Closed questions are like a polite nod. Open-ended questions are like an invitation to sit down and have a real conversation.
It's about fostering a sense of curiosity. Instead of assuming you know everything, you're actively seeking to learn.
Precisely. And when you ask how or why questions, you invite reflection. For example, how did you decide to get into that hobby? Or why is that important to you? These questions can lead to really insightful and personal exchanges, deepening the connection significantly. They tap into their motivations and values.
It feels like these questions help you understand not just what someone does, but why they do it and how they feel about it.
Exactly. And this is invaluable for building genuine relationships. Remember, the goal of small talk isn't just to fill silence. It's to find common ground, to show interest, and to begin building trust. Open-ended questions are your most powerful tool for achieving this.
So, to recap for our listeners, we want to move away from closed questions that get simple yes/no answers. We should embrace open-ended questions, often starting with what, how, or tell me about. These act as openers and explorers, inviting elaboration and genuine conversation.
And don't forget the power of active listening and asking thoughtful follow-up questions. This shows your interest and encourages deeper sharing. By mastering these questioning techniques, you're not just engaging in small talk, you're starting to build meaningful connections.
It really is about showing that you care about hearing their story.
Absolutely. So, practice these explore questions this week. Notice the difference in the conversations you have. You might be surprised at how much more you learn and how much richer your interactions become.
And next time, we'll explore sharing stories and how to do it effectively to strengthen those bonds.
That's right. Join us then for episode 7. Welcome back. Last time, we explored asking the right questions. Now, let's share stories.
That's right, Alex. Asking great questions is key, but sometimes you need to bridge that gap from asking to truly connecting. And what's more connecting than sharing a piece of ourselves? It feels like a natural next step, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Lisa. When someone shares a personal anecdote, it's like they're opening a window into their world. It's not just information exchange anymore. It's about revealing a little bit of who you are. This allows the other person to see you as a real individual with experiences and feelings, not just a walking set of facts.
And that creates an instant sense of relatability. If I hear you talk about a frustrating but ultimately funny experience you had trying to assemble furniture, and I've had a similar experience, I instantly feel a connection. It's like, oh, you get it.
Exactly. It humanizes the interaction. We've all been building up conversational skills, from breaking the ice to active listening and now asking questions. Storytelling takes those skills and injects them with genuine personality. It's about moving beyond what you do to who you are. But the key here is relevance. You can't just launch into a random, lengthy story.
That's a crucial point. How do we make sure our stories are relevant and don't feel like an uncomfortable detour?
It all comes back to what we discussed about asking insightful questions. When someone tells you about their weekend trip and you ask about a specific place they visited, their response might give you an opening. For example, they might mention they tried a local delicacy and it was surprisingly good, perhaps even a bit adventurous.
Okay, so I could then say something like, "Oh, that reminds me of a time I tried escargots for the first time in Paris. I was so nervous, but it turned out to be delicious."
Perfect. You've taken their experience, trying a new food, and connected it to your own similar experience. You're not hijacking the conversation. You're adding a personal layer that complements what they shared. The key is to keep it concise. A good rule of thumb is to aim for a story that's maybe 30 seconds to a minute long. It should have a clear point or a moment of emotion, and then you tie it back to the conversation.
So, it's like a mini narrative, a little beginning, a middle with some action or feeling, and a conclusion that either reinforces what the other person said or offers a lighthearted observation. And the goal isn't to be the most captivating storyteller in the world, but to create a moment of shared experience.
Precisely. It's about creating that us too feeling. And when you share a story, you're not just sharing facts, you're sharing emotions. You can convey nervousness, humor, surprise, or even a touch of vulnerability. When done authentically, this is incredibly powerful for building rapport. Think about the difference between saying, I went to a conference last week versus I went to a conference last week, and I was so nervous about my presentation that I actually practiced it in front of my cat. He seemed unimpressed, but at least I didn't forget my lines.
Okay, I can definitely relate to needing an audience for practice, even if it's a furry one. That adds personality and a touch of humor that makes the anecdote far more memorable. It also invites a follow-up question from the other person, doesn't it? They might ask, "How did the presentation go?" Or, "Did your cat enjoy it?"
Exactly. You're not just making a statement. You're creating an opening for them to engage further. And if they do inquire, you can elaborate a little more, always remembering to bring it back to them eventually. This balance is key. One common mistake people make is oversharing or telling stories that are too long or too personal for the early stages of conversation.
I can see how that could shut down a conversation instead of opening it up. So, what kind of stories are generally safe and effective for those initial small talk moments?
Generally, you want stories that are lighthearted, relatable, and don't delve into overly sensitive or controversial topics. Think about everyday mishaps, funny observations, brief travel anecdotes, or even something you learned recently that sparked your interest. For example, if someone is talking about a new hobby they've picked up, you might share a brief story about a time you tried something new and it ended in a comical way.
So, it's about finding those universal human experiences that most people can connect with, even if their exact situation was different. It's like saying, "I've been there too in my own way."
That's a fantastic way to put it. And this practice of sharing stories really ties back into our earlier discussions about empathy and understanding. When you share a story, you're showing that you understand the human experience. It demonstrates emotional intelligence, and that's a quality that draws people in. It's also about demonstrating confidence. Being willing to share a personal story, even a small one, shows you're comfortable with yourself.
And that confidence is infectious. When you talk about something you're passionate about, or a funny moment you experienced, your enthusiasm shines through. This naturally makes you more engaging. So, to recap for our listeners, sharing personal stories in small talk is a powerful way to build connection. It moves beyond just asking questions to actually revealing a bit of yourself.
Right? The key is to make your stories relevant to the conversation. Keep them relatively brief and focus on lighthearted, relatable experiences. Think of it as a way to add color and personality to your interactions, creating those relatable moments that foster genuine connection.
It's about showing, not just telling, that you understand and can relate. It's like offering a small, personal gift to the conversation, inviting the other person to share in return. And this makes the whole interaction richer and more memorable for everyone involved.
Absolutely. It's using your own life experiences as a bridge to connect with others. It transforms tentative exchanges into more meaningful interactions.
So, remember the power of a well placed anecdote. It's not about having dramatic life events to share, It's about finding the human moments in everyday life and sharing them with authenticity.
Well said, Lisa. This really adds that personal dimension that makes small talk feel less like a chore and more like an opportunity to connect. Next time, we'll be navigating those sometimes uncomfortable moments, awkward silences, and learning how to handle them with grace. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time, we explored the power of sharing personal stories to build rapport. Today, we're tackling something many of us dread: awkward silences.
Oh, Alex, the silent killer of conversations. I think everyone listening has experienced that moment where the talking just stops, and you're suddenly hyper aware of every little sound. You start to wonder if you said something wrong, or if the other person is bored. It can feel really uncomfortable.
It absolutely can. But here's the secret: awkward silences aren't necessarily a sign of failure. They're just a natural part of conversation, especially when you're getting to know someone. The key is learning how to navigate them gracefully, transforming them from a potential pitfall into an opportunity.
An opportunity? That sounds pretty optimistic. What kind of opportunity can silence offer in a conversation?
Think of it this way: when a silence happens, it's a moment of pause. It's a chance for both people to take a breath, collect their thoughts, or even just process what's been said. Instead of panicking, we can use this pause to our advantage. We can either reflect on the conversation so far or gently introduce a new, related topic.
Okay, I can see that. So, it's not about filling every single second with noise, but about making the pauses productive when they do happen. What are some practical ways to do that? How do we avoid that desperate scramble to say anything?
One of the best strategies is to revisit techniques we've already discussed. Remember, in episode 2, we talked about having a few go-to questions in your back pocket. These aren't just for starting a conversation, but for reigniting it too.
Like asking about their day or what they're looking forward to this week. Those seem so simple, but I usually forget them when I'm in the moment.
Exactly. The trick is to have them so ingrained that they come out naturally. So, if a silence falls, you can casually ask something like, "So, anything interesting planned for the rest of your week?" Or, "How has your day been going away from all this?" It's gentle, open-ended, and keeps the ball rolling without pressure.
That's good. It's not an interrogation, just a soft reentry into conversation. What else? I'm thinking about that feeling of panic. What if I can't even think of that?
That's where active listening, which we discussed earlier, becomes your superpower. If you've been genuinely listening to the other person, you've likely picked up on a detail, a passing comment, or an interest they mentioned earlier.
So, even if the conversation itself has stalled, I can go back to something they said 5 minutes ago?
Precisely. Imagine that they mentioned they were excited about a new movie coming out. If there's a lull, you can say, "You mentioned that movie earlier. Have you seen any trailers for it?" Or if they spoke about a recent trip, "I was thinking about what you said about your trip to place. What was your favorite part of that experience?" It shows you were paying attention and that you're interested in what they have to say. It's like picking up a dropped thread and weaving it back into the conversation.
That's a great analogy, Alex. It makes the silence feel less like an end and more like a gentle pivot. It's about using the information already given. So, instead of inventing something new, you're building on what's already there.
You got it. Another powerful tool is to use the environment around you. This is especially useful if you're in a public place, at an event, or even in a friend's house.
What do you mean by the environment? Like pointing out the decor? That feels a bit superficial.
It can be, but it also could be a springboard. Let's say you're at a party and there's a great playlist. You could say, "This music is fantastic, isn't it? Do you know who this artist is?" Or if there's a particularly interesting piece of art on the wall, "That's an interesting painting. What do you make of it?" It's a neutral topic that offers a shared experience.
So, you're using observational comments as a bridge. That's smart. It's not about demanding a deep answer, but just opening a little door for dialogue.
Exactly. And sometimes the best approach is simply to acknowledge the pause, but in a lighthearted way. This is about leaning into the slight awkwardness rather than fighting it. You could smile and say something like, well, we've reached a moment of contemplation, or with a chuckle, looks like we're both deep in thought.
That's a bit bolder, but I can see how that could work if the vibe is right. It shows you're human and can handle a bit of quiet. It injects a bit of playfulness.
It really does. And when you do this, you're signaling that it's okay to have a brief pause. The other person might then feel more comfortable finding their own way back into the conversation, or they might even respond to your lighthearted comment with a laugh and a new thought.
So, to recap what we've discussed for handling those silences, we can revisit our initial icebreaker questions. We can use our active listening skills to bring up something previously mentioned by the other person. We can make observations about our shared environment, and we can even acknowledge the pause with a bit of lightheartedness.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. And remember, the goal here isn't to eliminate silence entirely. It's to make sure that when it happens, it doesn't derail the entire interaction. It's about maintaining a comfortable flow.
It sounds like a lot of this comes back to confidence and a willingness to engage, even in a small way. If you're not afraid of the silence, it loses its power.
Precisely. Most people feel the same as you do when a silence occurs. They're just as if not more anxious about breaking it. So, by taking a calm, measured step, you're often doing both of you a favor. You're demonstrating social intelligence and making the interaction smoother for everyone involved.
I feel much better about silences already. It's not a void to be feared, but a space to be gently filled or even just embraced for a moment before conversation continues.
That's the spirit. It's about making small talk feel less like a performance and more like a natural, evolving connection. It's practice, practice, practice. And by the time you're done with this series, you'll be a pro at keeping conversations flowing, even through those little moments of quiet.
Definitely. So, it's about having a few strategies ready, being present, and not letting the fear of silence win.
Exactly. And that's what we're all about here, building your confidence in every conversational scenario. Next episode, expressing genuine interest and enthusiasm. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Last time, we explored navigating silences. Now, let's express genuine interest and enthusiasm.
Absolutely, Alex. It's one thing to ask questions and listen, but another to show you're truly engaged and care about what they're sharing. That's where genuine interest and enthusiasm shine.
Think about it, Lisa. When someone talks, and you can tell they're just waiting for their turn or their eyes glaze over, how does that make you feel?
A total conversation killer. You feel dismissed, unimportant. You might withdraw and stop sharing. It's like talking to a brick wall.
Precisely. But when someone leans in, their eyes light up, they ask clarifying questions, and you feel their energy, it's completely different, isn't it? You feel energized, valued, and more connected. So, we want to explore how to create that effect.
I love that. So, how do we show we're genuinely interested? It's not just saying, uh-huh, or nodding.
No, it's more nuanced. Firstly, it starts with your mindset. You have to genuinely want to connect. If you're already thinking about your next task, that will show. So, commit to being present.
That's a great point, Alex. It's about making that person and conversation the most important thing in that moment. It's like the outward expression of deep listening we talked about.
You've got it. And one key way is through your nonverbal cues. Things like comfortable eye contact, looking at them when they speak and when you reply.
And a genuine smile when appropriate, right? Not forced, but one that reaches your eyes.
Absolutely. And posture matters too. Leaning in slightly, angled towards the speaker, signals engagement. It's like saying, I'm here, I'm with you, and I'm paying attention. Compare that to someone slumped back, arms crossed, looking away.
So it's about opening up our physical space to the other person, inviting them in.
Exactly. Now let's talk about verbal cues. Beyond, tell me more. How do we convey enthusiasm? It's in the questions you ask. Instead of a generic, how was your day? If they mention a specific event, follow up with something more detailed.
Like if they say they went to a new art exhibit, you could ask, oh, interesting. What kind of art was it? And did anything particularly catch your eye? That shows you're not just ticking boxes.
Perfect example. And it's the way you ask. Your tone of voice can convey so much. A slightly more upbeat, curious tone can make a huge difference. It's not about being overly loud, but about injecting warmth and curiosity into your voice.
I see. So it's a combination of what you say and how you say it. And I think the what also includes elaborating a little yourself, not just asking questions.
That's an excellent point, Lisa. When someone shares something and you have a relevant, positive experience or thought to add, share it briefly. This isn't about hijacking the conversation, but finding points of connection. For example, if they're excited about a new recipe, you could say, that sounds wonderful. I tried a similar dish with ingredient and it was a hit. What was the key spice in yours?
So you're building on their story, showing you're invested and happy for their success. It creates a shared experience.
Precisely. And this leads to genuine enthusiasm. How do we project that without sounding fake? It starts with finding something you genuinely find interesting about what they're saying. Even if the topic isn't your passion, you can find interest in their passion.
What do you mean by their passion?
Well, when people talk about something they love, there's often a visible sparkle. It could be their work, a hobby, their family, a trip. Your job is to connect with that energy. Ask them what they love about it. What aspects excite them the most?
So, you're not trying to become an instant expert, but you're trying to see it through their eyes and appreciate their excitement.
Exactly. You're mirroring their positive energy. And that often involves using enthusiastic language. Words like amazing, fascinating, incredible. But again, it has to feel natural. Use words that feel authentic to your own expression of excitement.
I understand. It's about finding your own way to signal you're impressed or intrigued. And I guess sometimes simply acknowledging their effort or the outcome can convey enthusiasm. Like, wow, it must have taken a lot of work to achieve that. Or, that sounds like such a rewarding experience.
Brilliant, Lisa. You're hitting on it. It's about validation and appreciation. It makes the other person feel that their efforts and experiences are seen and valued. And remember, enthusiasm is contagious. When you show it, others tend to respond in kind.
So, to recap for our listeners, expressing genuine interest and enthusiasm involves a mindset of presence, positive nonverbal cues like eye contact and posture, thoughtful and enthusiastic verbal questions, and connecting with and reflecting the other person's passion.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa, and it all circles back to making the other person feel heard, valued, and interesting. When you consistently show genuine interest, you build stronger connections, foster trust, and make every conversation a more positive and rewarding experience.
It really is the key to unlocking deeper conversations and building meaningful relationships. It takes practice, but the rewards are immense.
They truly are. So, for this week, practice expressing genuine interest and enthusiasm in at least one conversation per day. Notice the difference it makes.
Great challenge. And next time, we'll be tackling episode 10, handling difficult topics and sensitive subjects.
Indeed, it will be. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Today, we tackle how to handle difficult topics gracefully.
Oh, this is a big one, Alex. It feels like a minefield sometimes, doesn't it? You want to be authentic, but you also don't want to offend or make someone uncomfortable.
That's exactly it, Lisa. The goal isn't to avoid these conversations entirely. The goal is to approach them with tact, respect, and a commitment to maintaining connection. Remember when we talked about reading between the lines and understanding nonverbal cues? That's crucial here. Often, someone's body language will tell you if a topic is becoming too much for them, even if they don't say it outright.
So, it's about being perceptive. If someone is visibly uncomfortable, shrinking back, or changing the subject abruptly, that's a signal.
Precisely. And a sensitive subject could be anything from personal health issues, financial struggles, family conflicts, or even deeply held political or religious beliefs. The key is our reaction.
What's the first step then when a difficult topic starts to bubble up in conversation?
The first step is often self-awareness. Ask yourself, is this topic appropriate for this person, this setting, and this stage of our relationship? If the answer is questionable, it's usually best to steer away. But what if it's already there? Or what if someone directly asks you something sensitive?
That's where it gets tricky. You can't just shut down.
No, you shouldn't. Instead, you can acknowledge the sensitivity. You might say something like, that's a really important and personal question, or that's a topic that can be quite sensitive, but I appreciate you asking. This validates their inquiry without immediately diving into a potentially uncomfortable disclosure.
So you're creating a little bit of space to decide how to proceed. And this is where empathy really comes into play.
Absolutely. Empathy is our compass. If you sense hesitation or discomfort from the other person, your response should reflect that understanding. You can offer them an out, so to speak. For instance, if someone is sharing something difficult, you might say, "Thank you for sharing that with me. I can see this is hard for you. Please know you don't have to share more than you're comfortable with."
That's a kind way of saying, I'm here for you, but I respect your boundaries.
Exactly. And when you do need to discuss sensitive matters, or when someone else brings them up, focus on your role as a listener. Active listening is paramount. Instead of formulating your own strong opinion or offering unsolicited advice, focus on understanding. Use phrases like, "So what I'm hearing is," or "It sounds like you're feeling," to confirm you've understood correctly.
That helps avoid misunderstandings, which can easily escalate when emotions are already running high around a sensitive topic.
And remember our discussion on asking the right questions? When navigating difficult subjects, open-ended questions that focus on feelings and experiences are often more helpful than direct, probing ones. Instead of asking, "Did you get divorced because of money?" you might ask, "How has that situation been affecting you?" Or, "What has been the biggest challenge through all of this?"
That's a great distinction. It invites sharing without demanding specific details that might feel intrusive. What about when you're the one who might be causing the discomfort, perhaps unintentionally?
That's a really self-aware question, Lisa. If you sense you might have touched a nerve, a sincere apology can go a long way. Even if you didn't intend to cause harm, acknowledging the impact of your words is important. You could say, "I'm sorry if what I said came across as insensitive. That wasn't my intention at all."
It's about accountability, even for unintentional missteps. And sometimes a difficult topic arises because the person you're talking to is going through something tough and you want to offer support.
Yes, and in those situations, especially, remember that being present and offering a listening ear is often more valuable than trying to fix the problem. Being willing to be a safe space for someone else's vulnerability is a profound way to strengthen a connection.
So, to recap, when faced with difficult or sensitive topics, our strategy is a combination of perceptiveness, empathy, active listening, and thoughtful questioning. We should be aware of our surroundings and the emotional state of the other person, offer validation and respect boundaries, and focus on understanding rather than judgment.
That's a solid summary, Lisa. And remember that the goal of small talk and connection isn't always to achieve absolute comfort for everyone all the time. It's about navigating the complexities of human interaction with grace. Sometimes Difficult conversations are opportunities for deeper understanding and a stronger bond, precisely because they were handled with care.
It seems like the principles we've been learning throughout this series, active listening, showing genuine interest, reading nonverbal cues, and empathy, all converge when we deal with these more challenging conversations.
They do. These skills aren't just for lighthearted chats. They're the very foundation for building resilient, meaningful relationships. By approaching sensitive subjects with respect and awareness, we demonstrate that we value the other person, even when the conversation gets tough.
So, it's not about having all the answers, but about being a thoughtful and respectful communicator, even when the topics are challenging.
Exactly. It's about building bridges, not walls, and recognizing that sometimes the most meaningful connections are forged in the moments we navigate difficulty together.
That's a powerful thought to carry forward.
Indeed. And next time, we'll be moving on to the art of the graceful exit, knowing when and how to end a conversation, leaving a positive impression.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep practicing and keep connecting. Welcome back. Last time, we talked about expressing genuine interest in conversations. Today, we discussed the art of the graceful exit.
That's so important, Alex. We focus a lot on starting chats, but knowing how to end them smoothly is key to leaving a good impression.
Absolutely. A well-handled exit is like a memorable closing note in music. It leaves the other person feeling respected and signals that you value their time.
A flourish, indeed. So, what are the secrets to this conversational flourish?
First, timing. Pay attention to social cues. Are they looking around, giving shorter answers? These suggest it's time to wrap up.
So, it's about reading the room, or rather, the conversation.
Exactly. Once you sense that moment, use a transition phrase. These are short, polite statements that signal your intention to depart.
Like, it was nice talking to you?
That's a good start. We can make them more specific. Combine acknowledging the conversation's value with your need to leave. For instance, this has been fascinating, but I should let you go now.
So, you validate the chat and then offer a polite out. It softens the departure.
Precisely. You can also mention a specific, non-personal reason for leaving. I've really enjoyed catching up, but I need to find my colleague before the next session starts.
That works well because it's about your schedule, not a lack of interest in them.
Right? And if you found a genuine connection, suggest a follow-up. I'd love to continue this discussion. Perhaps we could connect on LinkedIn later.
That's a brilliant way to transition to a future interaction. It shows you value the potential connection, like planting a seed.
A perfect analogy. And remember, leaving them with a positive feeling is the goal. A sincere compliment helps. I really appreciate you sharing your insights on X. It's given me a lot to think about.
So, to sum up, observe timing, use polite transition phrases, offer a clear reason if needed, suggest follow-up possibilities, and always end with warmth and a genuine compliment.
You've got it. Now, what about those conversations where the other person doesn't seem to pick up on subtle cues? The conversational vampires?
Oh, they can be tough. How do you disengage gracefully then?
You might need to be a bit more direct, but still polite. Try a pre-planned exit statement. Have something ready like, I've really enjoyed talking with you, but I need to circulate and speak to a few other people.
Circulate and speak to others. That sets a clear expectation and implies you have other social duties. Assertive, not rude.
Exactly. Or, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just saw someone I need to catch before they disappear. It creates external urgency.
Like a mini, necessary interruption. Clever. And if you've been talking for a long time and need to leave,
Honesty, combined with politeness, is key. I'm afraid I've kept you for too long already. I know you must have a lot to do, so I'll let you get to it. It was truly a pleasure. You frame it around their time.
That's very considerate. You're giving them an out, focusing on their needs. A generous exit.
Indeed, in your tone, smile, and posture matter. Warmth can make even direct exits feel respectful.
So, it's the delivery just as much as the words. You want to convey goodwill until the very end.
Precisely. Not every conversation will be a perfect match. In those cases, a graceful exit is vital for maintaining a positive overall impression.
It's about leaving the door open, even if that particular interaction was a mismatch.
Exactly. And sometimes a simple, warm closing is enough. A genuine smile, and "it was truly a pleasure meeting you," can be perfect.
So, to really reinforce this, observe timing, use clear transition phrases, be honest about your need to leave if necessary, consider future connections, and always maintain warmth and respect. It's about closing conversations in a way that strengthens relationships.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. By practicing these techniques, you turn potentially awkward endings into opportunities for positive, lasting impressions.
It truly reframes conversations beautifully, from the initial small talk to the final, polite disengagement.
It absolutely does. And that brings us to the end of our discussion on ending conversations. Next time, we'll be exploring the importance of the follow up and how to strengthen those connections you've worked hard to build.
That sounds like the perfect next step.
Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Let's focus on strengthening those connections we build.
We've learned how to start conversations and leave a good impression. But what happens after you walk away? If you don't build on that initial spark, it can fizzle out. The follow up is where connections truly solidify.
Think of it like planting a seed. Small talk is preparing the soil and planting. The follow up is the watering and care that helps that seedling grow. Without it, you just have a seed with no promise of a plant.
So, what does a good follow up look like? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture.
Not at all. The key is relevance and timeliness. The sooner you follow up, ideally within 24 to 48 hours, the better. This keeps you fresh in their mind.
Okay, 24 to 48 hours. And what should you say? Is it just a generic, nice meeting you?
That's a start, but we can do better. Effective follow-ups remind the person of something specific you discussed. It shows you were paying attention and value the conversation. For example, if you talked about a book, send a link to an interesting article about it. Or if you discovered a shared interest in a hobby, mention an upcoming event related to that.
So it's about adding value or continuing the conversation thread. That makes sense. It's not just checking a box, it's showing genuine interest.
Precisely. And the media matters, depending on the context. At a professional event, a LinkedIn connection request with a personalized note is often appropriate. The note could say, "It was great meeting you at the event name yesterday. I enjoyed our chat about specific topic."
That's a great simple template for a professional setting. It's polite and specific. What if it's more casual, like at a social gathering?
For casual settings, an email or text, if appropriate, can work. Again, personalization is key. You might say, "So glad we got to chat about shared interest at Sarah's party. Hope to see you there next time."
It sounds like the goal is to reinforce the positive feeling from your initial conversation and open the door for future interaction without being pushy.
Exactly. And remember the graceful exit from our last episode? It often sets the stage perfectly for a follow-up. If you said, "It was really interesting talking about topic. I'd love to hear your thoughts on related item," sometime your follow-up can directly reference that. You can message them saying, "Following up on our conversation about topic, I found this article on related item and thought you might find it interesting."
that really creates a natural continuation. It feels less like a forced action and more like a natural progression of the dialogue. So, we've talked about what to send and when. What about the frequency of follow-ups?
For the initial follow-up, once is usually enough. The purpose is to solidify that first connection. If you're aiming to build a deeper relationship, subsequent interactions will naturally arise. Don't bombard people with messages. Quality over quantity.
And what if you don't get a response? Should you try again?
It's a delicate balance. If you send a thoughtful, relevant follow-up and don't hear back, it's usually best to let it go. People are busy, and sometimes the timing isn't right. A polite, single follow-up is sufficient. Forcing it can feel disingenuous.
So, one thoughtful follow-up is the best practice. And if they respond, what's the next step?
If they respond positively, then you're on your way to strengthening that connection. You can continue the conversation, share resources, or, if the initial conversation hinted at it, suggest a more concrete next step. This could be grabbing a coffee, attending an event together, or collaborating on a project.
This is where we move from small talk to building genuine rapport and potentially friendships or valuable professional relationships.
Precisely. This is the transition. One of the most powerful ways to strengthen a connection through a follow-up is to offer assistance or a referral. If you've learned about a challenge you're facing and you know something that could help, offer it. I was thinking about your project and remembered I know someone who is an expert in area. I'd be happy to make an introduction if you'd like.
That's incredibly valuable. It shows you're not just making small talk for the sake of it, but you're also thinking about how you can genuinely support them. It creates goodwill and reciprocity.
Absolutely. And don't forget about congratulating someone on an achievement. If you see a former acquaintance has been promoted, published something, or reached a milestone, a quick congratulatory message is effective. It's a positive touch point that reinforces your connection.
It's like saying, I'm supportive of your journey.
Exactly. And this brings us to the exit. If you've agreed to connect again, like let's grab lunch next month, the follow-up is crucial for making that happen. A few days before, send a message to confirm. Looking forward to our lunch on day. Does time still work for you? This reinforces your commitment.
So, the follow-up isn't just about initiating new contact. It's also about maintaining and acting on existing commitments. It's a full circle of connection management.
It truly is. And when you consistently practice these follow-up strategies, you'll notice a significant difference. Those brief encounters from small talk evolve into meaningful relationships. You build a network of people who know you, like you, and importantly, trust you.
It makes the initial effort of engaging in small talk feel so much more worthwhile when you know you have the tools to nurture those connections afterward. It's about moving from fleeting interactions to lasting bonds.
So, to recap, the follow-up is your bridge from a single conversation to a sustained connection. Remember to be timely, specific, and relevant. Offer value, whether it's information, an introduction, or congratulations. And always ensure your follow-up aligns with the context of your initial meeting.
It's about showing you care, you listened, and you're invested in building a genuine connection. It's the watering and tending that turns that planted seed into a flourishing relationship.
That's a perfect way to put it, Lisa. By dedicating a little time and thought to following up, you transform superficial encounters into the foundation of truly meaningful connections. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time, we explored the art of the graceful exit. Now, we're stepping into a world that's changed interaction, the digital age.
That's right, Alex. Small talk in the digital age is a whole new landscape. Our conversations happen through screens, text, and email. How do we translate those crucial small talk skills into this online environment?
It's an important question. So much connection building and relationship maintenance happens online. We need to adapt, but the core principles remain. Be genuine, be interested, and be clear.
So, for someone comfortable with in person small talk, what's the first hurdle moving to digital communication?
The biggest hurdle is the lack of immediate nonverbal cues. In person, you see nods and smiles. Online, especially in text, you miss that. This can lead to misunderstandings or a feeling of disconnect.
Right. You can't tell if someone's reading your message with interest or just skimming it.
Exactly. So, to compensate, we need to be more intentional with our words. This means being clearer, more explicit with our tone, and using available tools effectively. Let's start with texting and instant messaging.
Okay, texting. It feels so casual, but I've definitely sent a text and then worried about how it might be interpreted.
And that's common. For effective small talk via text, think about clarity and conciseness. Avoid overly long, rambling messages that can be hard to follow. Get to the point, but do it kindly.
So, instead of a massive paragraph, maybe a few shorter messages?
Precisely. And consider using emojis thoughtfully. They can add a crucial layer of tone and emotion that's missing from plain text. A simple smiley face can convey warmth and friendliness, softening a potentially blunt statement.
I've seen people overdo it with emojis, though. Does that ever feel insincere?
It absolutely can. The key is to use them authentically to enhance your message, not replace it. Think about what emotion you want to convey and if an emoji genuinely supports that. Don't use them as a crutch for unclear writing.
That makes sense. So, for digital small talk, we use clear language and appropriate emojis. What about responding to messages? How do we show we're engaged?
Good question. In digital spaces, promptness can signal interest. While you don't need to reply instantly, a timely response shows you value the interaction. Also, ask follow-up questions. If someone mentions their weekend plans, ask a specific question about it later. This shows you are listening, or rather, reading.
It's like active listening, but through typing. Remembering details they shared previously and bringing them up shows you're paying attention.
Exactly. Now, let's shift to email. While often more formal than texting, emails can still host small talk, especially in follow-ups or initial contact. The principle here is to be professional but personable.
I often struggle with emails. How do you add a personal touch without sounding unprofessional?
Start with a friendly greeting that's appropriate for the relationship. Hope you're having a good week, or hope this email finds you well, are common and effective. Then, if there's a genuine connection point, perhaps you met at a conference or you're responding to something they wrote, briefly mention it.
So, referencing a shared experience or their work.
Yes. For example, if you're emailing a potential collaborator, you might say, I really enjoyed your recent presentation on X. It sparked some ideas for my own work. This shows you've done your homework and are genuinely interested in their contributions.
And then you transition to the main purpose of the email.
Right? The small talk should be a brief, warm opening, not the main event. And when you're concluding an email, a simple best regards or sincerely followed by your name is standard. If the preceding small talk was particularly warm, you might shift to something like all the best.
It feels like a delicate balance. You want to connect, but you also respect their time and the professional context.
It is, and it gets easier with practice. Think of it as finding the right rhythm for that specific online medium. Now, social media is another beast entirely, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Commenting on posts, reacting to stories, that's constant. How do we practice small talk there without being intrusive or creating a digital echo chamber?
On social media, small talk often involves acknowledging others' content. This could be a thoughtful comment on a friend's photo, a reaction to a shared article, or even a brief, positive reply to a public announcement. The goal is to be present and supportive.
So, more than just a like.
Definitely. A like is a signal, but a comment or a thoughtful question shows more engagement. If someone shares a travel photo, you could comment, that looks amazing. What was your favorite part of the trip? It opens the door for further interaction.
And this feels less intrusive than a direct message, perhaps?
For initial engagement, yes. Public comments are generally welcomed as part of the online social fabric. But always be mindful of the platform and the individual's preferences. Not everyone wants their social media feed to become a chat forum.
That's a really good point. We need to be sensitive to boundaries, even online.
Absolutely. One of the key takeaways for digital small talk is intentionality. Because the cues are different and the pace can be faster or slower, you need to be deliberate in how you connect.
So, to recap for our listeners, in digital small talk, we need to compensate for the lack of nonverbal cues by being clearer and more concise. We use emojis to add tone, respond in a timely manner, and ask follow-up questions to show engagement.
In emails, we blend professionalism with a touch of warmth, using brief greetings and relevant personal notes. And on social media, we engage thoughtfully with content, aiming for more than a simple like and respecting boundaries.
It's about adapting those core principles of genuine interest and connection to the tools we have. It's not about mastering new skills so much as applying the ones we have in a slightly different light.
Precisely. And remember, practice is key. The more you engage thoughtfully online, the more natural it will become. You'll develop your own style for navigating these digital conversations.
So, even though it's digital, the goal remains the same: building and nurturing meaningful connections.
That's the heart of it. This leads us perfectly into our next topic, where we'll focus on building confidence through practice. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time, we explored the nuances of small talk in our increasingly digital world. Now, we're shifting our focus to something crucial for mastering any skill: building genuine confidence. Today, we're talking about building confidence through practice.
That's such an important topic, Alex. Because even with all the great tips and techniques we've discussed, from active listening to graceful exits, if you don't feel confident, it's hard to put them into action. It's like knowing how to swim but being afraid to get in the water.
Exactly. And that's where practice comes in. It's not just about doing something repeatedly. It's about doing it with intention and learning from each experience. Think of it like any other skill: playing a musical instrument, learning a new language, or, as we've seen, developing a knack for networking. You wouldn't expect to be a concert pianist after one lesson, would you?
Definitely not. You'd practice scales, learn new pieces, maybe even make mistakes, and learn how to fix them. It's the same with small talk. It's a gradual process of building those conversational muscles.
Precisely, Lisa. And the first key to building confidence through practice is consistency. We've covered so many foundational elements, from the power of those initial greetings to active listening and even asking great questions. Each of these is a tool in your conversational toolbox. The more you use them, the more comfortable you become with them.
So it's about finding small, everyday opportunities.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a grand networking event. It could be chatting with the barista at your coffee shop, striking up a conversation with a neighbor, or even making a brief comment to someone in line at the grocery store. These are low-stakes environments where you can try out what we've discussed. You can practice active listening, ask an open-ended question, or simply share a brief, positive observation.
And when you do that, even if it's just a minute of connection, that's a win, right? We need to celebrate those small victories.
Big time. We tend to focus on the big successes, but the journey is made up of countless small steps. Think back to breaking the ice. Remember how we talked about starting with simple phrases? Each time you successfully use one, acknowledge it. It reinforces the behavior and builds your confidence that you can initiate and engage.
It's like building a positive feedback loop. You try something, it works, you feel a little more confident, and that makes you more likely to try again.
You've got it. Now, let's address something that often hinders confidence: setbacks. What happens when a conversation doesn't go as planned? Maybe you stumble over your words, or the other person seems disengaged.
That can be discouraging. It's easy to feel like you've failed and want to retreat.
It is. But here's where our journey itself becomes a teacher. Remember handling rejection and negative interactions? The principles we discussed there are crucial. A conversation that doesn't flow perfectly isn't a failure. It's data. It's an opportunity to learn.
So, instead of thinking, I'm bad at small talk, we should reframe it as that particular interaction didn't quite hit the mark. What could I adjust next time?
Exactly. Maybe you realized you were doing too much talking and not enough listening, or perhaps the topic wasn't a good fit. This is where self-awareness starts to play a role. When you practice consistently, you develop a better understanding of what works for you and what might need a tweak.
And if a conversation feels awkward, that's okay too. We talked about navigating awkward silences. Sometimes a brief lull is just a natural pause.
Indeed, the key is not to let that one less than ideal interaction derail your progress. View it as a learning experience. Every single person you speak with, no matter the outcome, is a practice session that makes you a little bit better for the next one. It's like those physical drills we do to prepare for a game. They might seem repetitive, but they hone our skills.
This reminds me of the idea of deliberate practice, focusing not just on repetition, but on actively trying to improve and push your boundaries slightly each time.
That's a perfect analogy, Lisa. And to facilitate that deliberate practice, it's helpful to set small, achievable goals. Perhaps your goal for the week is to initiate one short conversation each day. Or maybe it's to ask one follow-up question based on what the other person says.
And then, after you've done it, take a moment to reflect. What went well? What felt challenging? This reflection is a vital part of the learning process.
Absolutely. It's not just about doing, but about understanding what you're doing and why. And this isn't a solitary endeavor. Practice often involves stepping outside your comfort zone, which can be daunting. But remember our discussions on the empathy engine? When you approach interactions with a genuine desire to connect and understand, it shifts the focus from your own performance to the shared experience.
That's a great point. Shifting the focus outwards can alleviate a lot of self-imposed pressure. And it also makes the other person feel more valued and heard, which, as we know, makes for a better conversation for everyone.
Precisely. So, let's recap what we've discussed about building confidence through practice. First, embrace consistency. Make small talk a regular part of your day, even in minor interactions. Second, celebrate your small wins. Acknowledge and appreciate every positive interaction, no matter how brief. Third, view setbacks as learning opportunities. Don't let one less than perfect conversation discourage you. Extract the lesson. And fourth, set achievable goals and reflect on your practice.
And woven through all of that is the idea of approaching interactions with genuine interest and empathy, which makes the practice itself more rewarding and effective.
Exactly, Lisa. Confidence isn't an innate trait. It's a skill that's cultivated through consistent, intentional effort. By actively engaging in small talk, learning from every experience, and celebrating your progress, you'll find your conversational abilities growing, and more importantly, your confidence will soar.
It's about trusting the process and trusting yourself, knowing that each interaction is a step forward on this journey.
That's a perfect way to put it. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Building confidence through practice helps us in every social setting.
That's right, Alex. Because the truth is, a party isn't quite the same as a networking event, and a family dinner has its own unique dynamics. What works in one situation might not land so well in another. So, how do we adapt?
Exactly, Lisa. The core principles we've discussed, active listening, asking open-ended questions, finding common ground, they're your foundation. but think of them like the basic ingredients in a recipe. You don't use the exact same ingredients and proportions for a hearty stew as you do for a light summer salad. You adapt them to the occasion.
So, let's start with a common one, parties. When you walk into a party, what's the general vibe, and how does that affect our small talk approach?
Parties are usually more relaxed and formal. The goal is often connection and enjoyment. So, you can be a bit more playful. Instead of diving straight into deep questions, start with lighter observations. This music is great, isn't it? Or, have you tried these appetizers? They're amazing. These are low stakes ways to initiate conversation.
Ah, so it's about acknowledging the shared experience of being at the party. And what if you see someone standing alone?
That's a perfect opening. A simple, friendly approach like, "Hi, I'm Alex. I don't think we've met," with a warm smile is usually very effective. You can then follow up with a question like, "How do you know the host?" or "What brings you out tonight?" It's about showing you're approachable and interested. Remember our episode on breaking the ice? This is exactly where that skill shines.
Right.
So, for parties, it's light starters, shared enjoyment, and easy entry points. Now, what about the workplace? That feels a bit more structured, doesn't it?
It certainly can be in a workplace setting, especially during informal moments like coffee breaks or waiting for a meeting to start. Small talk can help build camaraderie and strengthen professional relationships. The focus here is often on shared work experiences, industry news, or even safe weekend recap topics.
So, maybe avoiding polarizing topics is even more important here than at a party?
Absolutely. Stick to professional but friendly. You might ask, "How was your weekend?" and be prepared to share a brief, positive anecdote about yours. Or, "Are you working on a new project? I'm really interested in how that's going." It shows engagement with your colleagues and the company's goals.
And what about networking events? Those can feel a bit more high stakes with a clear objective.
Networking events are a bit of a hybrid. You want to be professional, but you also need to be engaging and memorable. The key here is to have a clear, concise introduction ready, almost like a mini elevator pitch. State your name, what you do, or what your interests are, and perhaps a brief, positive statement about why you're at the event.
So, it's not just about chit chat, it's about signaling your purpose without being overly aggressive.
Precisely. And then, once you've opened the door, use those active listening skills we talked about. Ask questions about their work, their industry, what brought them to the event. Find a common ground. Remember, finding common ground is crucial here. You're looking for potential synergies or shared challenges.
That makes sense. You're not just making small talk, you're making strategic small talk. Now, let's talk about family gatherings. These can be a minefield of, well, history.
Family gatherings definitely have their own unique complexities. The great thing is you often have a wealth of shared history and inside jokes to draw from. This is where sharing stories can be incredibly powerful. You can reminisce about childhood memories or funny family anecdotes.
But what happens if a sensitive topic comes up or someone starts to stir things?
That's where handling difficult topics and sensitive subjects comes into play. You can gently steer the conversation. A phrase like, "Oh, that reminds me of a funny story about Uncle Joe," can sometimes divert a potentially awkward moment. Or you might simply choose to listen without engaging deeply if the topic isn't something you want to pursue. It's about navigating, not necessarily solving everything.
So, use shared history as a positive anchor, but also have your escape routes ready if needed. We've covered parties, workplaces, networking, and family. Are there any other common settings we should touch upon?
Think about events where you might be with strangers, but it's not a typical party, like a conference session break, a waiting room, or even a community event. Here, the approach is often about shared context. You can comment on the speaker, the venue, the food, the general atmosphere. Did you find that last point interesting? Or "This is a great turnout, isn't it?" These are simple ways to connect with people you've never met before.
It sounds like the underlying principle across all these settings is observation and connection. Observing the environment and the people, and then finding a way to connect authentically, but appropriately for that specific context.
Exactly. You're always reading the room, but your foundational skills give you the confidence to act on those observations. Remember, the goal of small talk is to build rapport and create positive human connections. By adapting your approach to the setting, you're not just having a conversation. You're making a moment more pleasant, more productive, or more memorable for everyone involved.
So, to recap, we've learned that parties lean towards relaxed enjoyment and easy icebreakers. The workplace values professional camaraderie and shared project discussions. Networking events require a strategic approach, blending professional introductions with genuine curiosity. Family gatherings offer a rich tapestry of shared memories, while also demanding careful navigation of sensitive subjects. And in general contextual situations, shared observations are a great starting point.
You've got it, Lisa. Mastering diverse social settings is all about flexibility and smart application of the tools we've already built. Remember, practice is key. Try to consciously apply these adjustments in your next few social interactions.
It's empowering to know we can adapt our skills to so many different situations.
Next episode, we'll dive into deepening relationships beyond superficiality. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Today, we're exploring how to deepen relationships.
Alex, we've built a great foundation with small talk skills. How do we move from those initial pleasantries to something more substantial, building genuine connection?
Think of small talk as the handshake, the appetizer. It's essential for that first contact, but for lasting connections, you need to move to the main course.
And how do we transition from talking about the weather to sharing something more meaningful without oversharing or making others uncomfortable?
That's where vulnerability comes in. It's not about oversharing, but about sharing your authentic thoughts, feelings, and experiences naturally and appropriately. It's about opening up a little and seeing how the other person responds.
So, a measured approach to opening up, sharing a personal anecdote or opinion that reveals who you are.
Precisely. Remember sharing stories in episode 7? Instead of "my vacation was nice," try "my vacation was wonderful." I tried a new hiking trail, and it was challenging but incredibly rewarding because it reminded me of the time I pushed myself to learn a new skill years ago. That tells a story.
Yes, that links an emotion and a past experience, revealing a personal value. It invites a deeper conversation.
Exactly. And the crucial element is reciprocity. As you share, you invite the other person to do the same. If they respond positively, you're on the right track. This willingness to be open fosters trust, making others feel safe to open up in return.
It's like a dance. You offer a step, and if the other person mirrors it, the connection grows. What are some practical ways to signal this willingness to move beyond the superficial?
Actively listen for emotions and underlying needs, not just facts. If someone says, "I'm so stressed about this project," respond with empathy. "That sounds really overwhelming. Is there anything specific about it that's causing the most stress?"
So, you acknowledge the emotional weight, encouraging them to elaborate, which is where deeper connection happens.
Precisely. You can also deepen conversations by exploring shared experiences or values. If you discover a shared interest, instead of just saying "me too," ask, "what is it about that particular artist or genre that you find so compelling?" Or have you ever had a live music experience that really stayed with you?
That asks for deeper reflection, moving from a shared interest to the why behind it, revealing personality, history, or beliefs.
Absolutely. Another technique is to ask questions that explore opinions, aspirations, or minor challenges. Instead of "did you have a good weekend?" try "what was the highlight of your weekend?" or "was there anything you were hoping to get done but didn't quite manage?" This acknowledges that life isn't always perfect.
By showing you understand life's ups and downs, you become more relatable. It's about being human together. So, to recap, small talk is the entryway. To deepen relationships, practice measured vulnerability, actively listen for emotions, explore shared experiences with reflective questions, and acknowledge life's nuances.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. And remember, this deepening process is ongoing. It requires consistent effort, genuine interest, and patience. The key is to keep showing up, listening, and being willing to share a little more as the relationship progresses.
It's about building trust incrementally. When trust is established, conversations naturally become more meaningful, allowing discussions about dreams, fears, and hopes, which forge strong bonds.
Indeed. And not every conversation needs to be a deep dive. There's still a place for lighthearted chat. The goal is to be able to move towards greater depth when comfortable for both parties, having the awareness and skills to navigate those moments intentionally.
So, it's about having a toolkit to choose the appropriate level of depth for the situation and relationship. What's next for us?
Next time, in episode 17, we'll focus on self-awareness, knowing your own strengths and weaknesses. Understanding yourself is vital for becoming a better communicator and a more connected individual.
Excellent. So, next time, we learn to understand ourselves better to improve our connections. Great stuff. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Today, we dive into self-awareness.
Self-awareness is crucial, Alex. It's about understanding your personal communication style. Are you someone who likes to observe first, or do you jump right in?
Exactly. It's recognizing your natural tendencies. Are you enthusiastic or more reserved? There's no single right way to be. Your style is unique.
I've noticed that sometimes I get so focused on asking questions that I forget to share about myself. That can make it feel like an interrogation, not a conversation. It's definitely been a weakness I've worked on improving.
That's a perfect example of a blind spot we all have. You might be an excellent listener, but then dominate the conversation when you do speak. Or you're empathetic, but you struggle to express your own viewpoints clearly. These are common areas for growth.
So, how do we uncover these personal insights? How do we become more self-aware in our interactions?
A powerful tool is feedback from others. Pay attention to how people react to you. Do they seem engaged and interested? Do they often interrupt you? Or do they look confused when you're speaking? Observing their reactions provides valuable clues.
That's a great point. I used to tell very long stories, and I noticed people checking their watches. That told me my delivery needed significant refinement. It wasn't about the story, but how I was telling it.
Precisely. You observe the effect your communication had on your audience. Another technique is to pause after a conversation and reflect. Ask yourself what went well. What could I have done differently? Did I truly listen? Or was I just waiting to speak? Did I contribute something valuable to the exchange?
This reflection process is key to building our conversational skills. Before a chat, you might set an intention like, I want to practice asking more open-ended questions. During the conversation, you focus on doing that. Afterward, you review. Did I manage to ask genuinely open-ended questions?
Absolutely. It's an ongoing, dynamic process. And don't forget to recognize your strengths. Are you naturally funny? Are you good at finding common ground? Do you offer insightful observations that make people think?
Yes. If I know I'm good at finding common ground, I can use that as a starting point to connect with someone quickly. It becomes my go-to skill, my superpower in conversation.
This highlights your unique conversational style. Knowing your strengths boosts your confidence. If you're a skill question asker, you can approach a networking event with a reliable tool to engage people. If you naturally create a welcoming atmosphere, that's also a strength to leverage.
So, self-awareness means understanding your communication style, acknowledging your strengths, and identifying areas for growth. We learn this by observing reactions, reflecting on conversations, and sometimes by seeking gentle feedback from trusted friends.
That's a fantastic summary. To cultivate your strengths, you practice them consciously. If you tend to interrupt others, make a deliberate effort to pause for a second before you speak.
That's such a practical tip. It takes real discipline to implement consistently, though. It feels unnatural at first.
It does. But practicing these small improvements helps your self-awareness grow, and these new habits become more natural over time. It creates a positive feedback loop, a virtuous cycle of improvement.
Self-awareness also connects deeply to empathy. Understanding your own emotional reactions and thought patterns helps you better understand others' feelings and perspectives.
Exactly. Knowing your own tendencies, your personal triggers, and your biases makes you more receptive to understanding others. If you know you tend to get defensive when criticized, you can manage that reaction better, allowing you to be more present and truly listen to another's viewpoint.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion. We learn to listen actively, then to share authentically, and now we look inward to refine how we do both more effectively.
It's about becoming a more effective, authentic version of yourself in social settings. It's about understanding and owning your conversational fingerprint.
So, the key takeaway is that understanding ourselves, our styles, our strengths, and our areas for growth is fundamental to mastering meaningful connections with others. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Last time, we explored the vital skill of self-awareness, understanding our own conversational strengths and weaknesses.
That was so insightful, Alex. Knowing ourselves better really helps us navigate interactions. And today we're diving into something equally crucial, perhaps even more so for building those truly deep connections, the empathy engine.
Exactly, Lisa. If self-awareness is looking inward, empathy is looking outward. It's about stepping into someone else's shoes, understanding their feelings, and responding with genuine compassion. It's the secret sauce that transforms superficial chit-chat into meaningful connection.
An empathy engine. I like that. So, how do we even start building this engine? It sounds a bit abstract.
It can seem that way, but it's built on practices we've already touched upon and some new ones. Think back to active listening. Empathy builds directly on that. When you're truly listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak, you're already gathering clues about how the other person is feeling.
Right. So, active listening is like the foundation. We're paying attention to the words, the tone, and even the pauses.
Precisely. And we also discussed nonverbal cues. Your body language, facial expressions, eye contact. These are all huge indicators of someone's emotional state. Empathy means consciously interpreting these cues. If someone's shoulders are slumped and they're avoiding eye contact, even if they say, "I'm fine," your empathy engine might be signaling that something more is going on.
Okay, so we're paying attention, we're observing. What's the next step for actively understanding their perspective?
This is where the engine really starts to hum. It's about making a conscious effort to imagine what it's like to be that person in that moment. Ask yourself, how would I feel if I were in their situation? This isn't about thinking about yourself when you were in a similar situation. It's about trying to feel it as them.
That's a subtle but important distinction. It's not projecting our own experiences, but genuinely trying to inhabit their emotional space.
Exactly. And that leads to a key technique, validation. When you sense someone is struggling or feeling a certain emotion, acknowledging it and letting them know it's okay to feel that way is incredibly powerful. It doesn't mean you have to agree with their perspective, but you validate their feelings.
So, if someone is upset about a work situation, instead of jumping in with solutions, I could say something like, "It sounds like that was really frustrating for you," or, I can understand why you'd feel disappointed.
Perfect examples. Lisa, that's validation in action. You're showing them you've heard their emotion and you're not dismissing it. You're essentially saying, I see you and I understand this is difficult for you. This simple act can diffuse tension and open the door for more open communication.
And it shows we're not just hearing the words, but we're hearing the feeling behind the words.
Exactly. Now, to really empower this empathy engine, we need to move beyond just recognizing feelings and towards understanding the reasons behind them. This involves asking open-ended questions that invite them to share more about their internal world.
So it's not just saying, you seem sad, but perhaps following up with, what has been weighing on your mind lately?
That's a great step. It shows you're not content with a surface-level observation. You're inviting them to share their narrative. Think of it like this. Active listening and observing nonverbal cues are like spotting the smoke. Validation is acknowledging the heat. Asking open-ended questions to understand reasons is like asking where the fire started.
I love that analogy, Alex. It makes it so much clearer. So we're actively seeking to understand the context of their emotions.
Precisely. Another powerful tool is practicing perspective taking. This means consciously imagining yourself in their exact circumstances. Were there pressures? Were there hopes? Were there fears? What's their background that might influence how they see this? Even if you can't possibly know all the details, the attempt to understand is what matters.
It's about acknowledging that everyone's reality is filtered through their own unique experiences. My perspective isn't the only valid one.
Exactly. And this requires a willingness to be curious, not judgmental. When someone expresses an opinion or a feeling that differs from yours, instead of immediately disagreeing or defending your own viewpoint, pause and ask yourself, why might they feel this way? What are they seeing that I might be missing?
That's a challenge for many of us, myself included at times. It's easy to get caught up in our own defenses.
It truly is. But pushing past, that is where the magic of empathy happens. It builds trust. When people feel understood, they're more likely to be open, honest, and trusting. This deepens relationships far beyond what small talk alone can achieve.
So, to recap building our empathy engine, we use active listening and observe nonverbal cues to pick up on emotions. Then we validate those emotions. After that, we use open-ended questions to understand the reasons behind them, and we practice perspective taking by imagining ourselves in their situation, all while remaining curious and non-judgmental.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. The empathy engine isn't just a theoretical concept. It's a set of actively practiced skills. It's about showing up for people, not just in what we say, but in how we listen and how we respond to their inner world. When you can effectively tune into how someone else is feeling and why, you unlock a powerful form of connection that's the bedrock of all strong relationships.
It really does feel like the missing piece for moving from polite conversation to genuine human connection. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome. And remember, this is a skill that grows with practice. The more you intentionally engage your empathy engine, the more naturally it will operate. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Today, we're focusing on networking.
Alex, how can small talk be a tool for professional success?
It's about building bridges and making positive first impressions. Remember active listening from episode 3? That's crucial when meeting new people at networking events. You want people to feel seen and heard.
So, it's more than just exchanging cards. It's about that genuine connection. I recall using the common ground techniques from episode 5 at an event. I noticed someone's t-shirt from a city I'd visited, and it led to a great conversation that felt natural.
Finding common ground breaks down formality. And remember asking the right questions, covered in episode 6? Instead of what do you do? Try what projects are you excited about? Or what drew you to this industry?
Those questions lead to much richer answers. And the personal touch from episode 7, sharing a brief, relevant story, makes you more relatable. It shows you're more than just a professional title.
It's about finding that balance. If a conversation lulls, the advice from episode 8 on navigating awkward silences comes in handy. You can transition smoothly, perhaps by saying, "It's been fascinating hearing about X. It reminds me of a challenge I'm facing."
That's a great way to pivot. It shows you're engaged. And when you express genuine interest, like we talked about in episode 9, people naturally respond.
Rapport building is key. It's not just the initial chat, it's about lasting connections. Remembering details from conversations, as discussed in episode 12's follow-up strategies, is vital.
The follow up is critical. A personalized message referring to a specific detail from your talk can be incredibly impactful. It reinforces that you valued the connection.
And in today's world, we must consider the digital aspect, like we covered in episode 13. On platforms like LinkedIn, don't just send a generic request. Add a note referencing where you met in your conversation.
It's small talk in a digital format. And building confidence, as we explored in episode 14, comes from practicing these skills. Networking events can then feel like opportunities, not challenges.
Mastering diverse social settings from episode 15 also applies. A formal reception requires a different approach than a casual mixer. You adjust your style accordingly.
This is how you move beyond superficial connections, as we learned in episode 16. Networking can lead to collaborations, mentorships, or trusted peers.
Self-awareness from episode 17 is also important. Knowing your conversational strengths and weaknesses helps you navigate events. If you tend to talk too much, consciously ask more questions.
And the empathy engine from episode 18 is relevant here. Try to understand the other person's perspective. What are their goals? Tailor your conversation to be mutually beneficial.
So, small talk is your primary tool for networking success. It's how you make impressions, build rapport, find common ground, and foster relationships. Be present, curious, and genuinely interested.
To recap, use active listening and thoughtful questions. Find common ground. Share relevant personal stories. Navigate silences gracefully. Show genuine interest and always follow up personally and digitally.
Confidence gained through practice will serve you well. Small talk is your entry to a valuable professional network. Turn encounters into meaningful connections.
Every networking opportunity is a chance to learn, connect, and grow professionally and personally.
Indeed. Next episode, we'll discuss handling rejection and negative interactions. Welcome back. Last time, we covered using small talk for networking success. Now, let's tackle handling rejection and negative interactions.
That's right, Alex. Not every conversation blossoms into a warm, fuzzy feeling. Sometimes, conversations can take a sharp turn, or we might feel outright rejected. It's important to know how to navigate those moments.
Exactly. Think of it this way, Lisa. If you're practicing your golf swing, you're not going to hit a hole-in-one every single time. Some shots will go wide. The key is to learn from those shots, adjust your stance, and keep playing. Social interactions are very similar. Not every small talk exchange will be a resounding success, and that's perfectly okay.
So, when we talk about rejection in small talk, what does that actually look like? Is it someone clearly not wanting to talk to you?
It can be. It might be someone giving you very short, clipped answers. Or perhaps they're visibly checking their watch, or their body language says they're eager to get away. It could be someone who shuts down a topic you thought was a great icebreaker. Even a perceived lack of interest can feel like rejection.
And then there are the negative interactions. That sounds a bit more intense.
It can be. This is where you might encounter someone who is outright rude, argumentative, or perhaps brings a lot of negativity into the conversation. They might disagree with you vehemently, criticize your point of view, or just have a general grumpy demeanor. This is where you need to be particularly mindful of your own emotional state and your boundaries.
Oof, those can definitely throw you off your game. So let's say you're in a networking event, you try to engage someone, and they just give you a cold shoulder. What's the immediate action plan?
The very first thing to do is to resist the urge to take it personally. This is a golden rule, Lisa. Someone's reaction is often more about them than it is about you. They might be having a bad day, they might be stressed about something else entirely, or perhaps they're just not in a social mood at that moment. It's rarely a direct reflection of your worth or your conversational skills.
That's a really important perspective shift. It's easy to internalize those moments and think, I said the wrong thing, or I'm not interesting enough.
Absolutely. Once you've made that mental shift away from personalizing it, the next step is often to simply disengage gracefully. You don't need to force the conversation. If someone is giving you signals that they're not interested or is being unfriendly, there's no need to prolong the interaction. A simple, polite acknowledgement is usually sufficient.
Can you give us an example of that graceful disengagement?
Certainly, if someone is giving you one-word answers and looks like they want to leave, you could say something like, well, it was nice meeting you briefly. I'm going to go circulate a bit more. Have a good evening. Or if they've been a bit curt, it seems like you have a lot on your mind. I'll let you get back to it. Hope your day improves. The key is to be brief, polite, and exit without making a scene.
So, don't dwell on it, and don't try to win them over. Just move on.
Precisely. Now, handling outright negative interactions, the rude or argumentative people, requires a slightly different but related approach. Your safety and well-being are paramount here. If someone is crossing lines, be it verbally abusive or just incredibly unpleasant, your priority is to remove yourself from that situation.
That sounds like a clear boundary. How do you set that boundary in the moment?
Sometimes a direct, calm statement is effective. You might say, I'm not comfortable with that kind of language or this line of discussion, or I'm going to choose not to engage in this topic. You can also simply state that you need to leave. I need to excuse myself now. You don't owe anyone an explanation for removing yourself from a toxic environment.
That makes sense, especially if it feels like a situation where you have to defend yourself or argue back.
Exactly. Arguing with someone who is determined to be negative or aggressive is usually a losing battle and drains your energy. It's far more productive to preserve your energy and move on. Remember, your goal in small talk isn't to change everyone's mind or win every argument. It's about connection and mutual understanding.
So, we've covered not taking it personally, disengaging gracefully for mild rejection, and setting firm boundaries for more negative interactions. What about after the interaction? What happens to our own feelings?
This is where the learning and growth aspect comes in. Even after a negative encounter, there's an opportunity to reflect, not to blame yourself, but to learn. Ask yourself, was there anything I could have done differently? Was there a cue I missed? Or was this interaction entirely outside of my control?
And the answer to that last question will often be yes, right?
This was just about them.
Often, yes. But even if it seems like it was all about them, reflecting can still be beneficial. Perhaps you'll realize you tend to feel a bit insecure when challenged, and you can work on building that inner confidence. Or maybe you'll notice you have a tendency to overshare, which can sometimes invite unwanted opinions. These are opportunities for self-improvement, not self-punishment.
So, reframing these negative experiences as learning opportunities.
Precisely. Think of it as data collection for your social skills. Every interaction, positive or negative, provides valuable insights. Negative experiences can actually build a lot of resilience. The more you experience them and navigate them successfully, the less power they hold over you. You develop an emotional armor, not to be cynical, but to protect your spirit.
That emotional armor sounds like a great metaphor. It's not about becoming hard, but about becoming tougher to knock down.
Exactly. And importantly, we need to be kind to ourselves. If a conversation felt awkward or you felt rejected, give yourself some grace. Treat yourself as you would a friend who's had a similar experience. Offer yourself some self-compassion.
That's such a good reminder. We're often our own harshest critics.
We are. So, to quickly recap what we've discussed, not every conversation will be a success. Recognize rejection and negativity, but don't take it personally. Your first priority is your well-being. Disengage politely from low-level negativity. Set clear boundaries and remove yourself from truly toxic interactions. And finally, reframe these moments as learning opportunities, collecting data, building resilience, and always practice self-compassion.
That's a really solid framework, Alex. It makes those potentially difficult social moments feel much more manageable.
And that's the goal. By preparing for these scenarios, you build confidence. You become less afraid of awkwardness or rejection. And that, ironically, makes you a more approachable and engaging person overall.
Absolutely. Well, Alex, that brings us to the end of episode 20. We've tackled the tougher side of small talk today.
We have. And next time, we'll be shifting gears as we move into episode 21, where we'll be exploring how to develop your unique conversational style.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that.
Great. So, join us next time for episode 21, Developing Your Unique Conversational Style. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery, your guide to building meaningful connections. Last time, we explored how to handle rejection and navigate difficult social interactions. Today, we're diving into something truly exciting, developing your own unique conversational style.
That's right, Alex. We've spent a lot of time building skills and confidence. Now, it's time to focus on making those interactions feel genuinely you. It's easy to get caught up in the how-to of small talk and forget that our personalities are what make connections special.
Exactly, Lisa. Think about your favorite people to talk to. What makes them stand out? It's not just what they say, but how they say it, their energy, their unique perspective. Your conversational style is your fingerprint in a conversation. It's the blend of your personality, your experiences, and your natural way of expressing yourself.
So, how do we go about finding or refining that style? It sounds a bit abstract.
It's more about awareness and authenticity than some complex formula. The first step is self-awareness. We touched on this in episode 17. Remember? Knowing your strengths and weaknesses. How do you naturally approach conversations? Are you more of a storyteller, a question asker, or perhaps someone who makes observations?
I can see that. I know I tend to be the one asking clarifying questions, trying to make sure I understand everything fully. Sometimes I worry I'm interrupting, but it's just my way of processing.
And that's perfect. That inquisitiveness is part of your style. Someone else might be a natural comedian, always ready with a witty remark. Another might be incredibly empathetic, drawing out deeper emotions with their gentle approach. None of these are inherently better than others. They're just different. The key is to lean into what feels natural for you.
So, if I'm a natural storyteller, I shouldn't try to force myself to be a super quick question asker if that's not me?
Precisely. Don't try to mimic someone else's style perfectly. Instead, observe people whose conversational styles you admire. What elements do you like? Is it their pacing, their humor, the way they use pauses? You can absolutely borrow inspiration and adapt elements that resonate with you, but always filter them through your own personality. Think of it like building a personalized playlist. You don't just copy someone else's list. You pick your favorite songs and arrange them in an order that you love.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think a big part of developing your style is also about what you talk about, right? Your interests, your passions.
Absolutely. Your unique style is also reflected in the topics you bring up and how you discuss them. When you talk about something you're genuinely passionate about, your enthusiasm shines through. This naturally makes you more engaging. What happens when you talk about something you love, Lisa?
Oh, I get a bit animated, I suppose. I might use more descriptive words, and I definitely talk faster. It's hard to contain it.
See? That animation, that descriptive language, that faster pace when you're excited. That's all part of your unique conversational style shining through. It's a signal to others that you're invested and passionate. Conversely, if you're forced to discuss something that bores you, your style will likely become more subdued, maybe even hesitant, and that's okay too. It signals a different level of engagement.
So, we should try to talk about things we care about? But what if our interests are very niche, or don't seem like typical small talk topics?
That's where the art of connection comes in, something we've discussed throughout this series. Your unique interests can be bridges to connection, not barriers. Instead of just stating a niche interest, you can share why it fascinates you. You can explain the most interesting or accessible aspect of it. This invites curiosity from others. For example, instead of just saying, I love collecting antique spoons, which might leave some people thinking, okay, and you could say, I've become fascinated by antique spoons. Each one tells a story, from the tiny, delicate ones used for dowsing to the ones passed down through families. It's like holding a little piece of history.
That's a great example. It turns a potentially alienating statement into an invitation to learn. It opens the door for questions and shared discovery.
Exactly. And remember, genuine connection is a two-way street. While you're developing your style, you're also exercising your active listening skills, which we covered in episode 3. You want to create a style that allows for genuine expression from both sides. So, a purely monologuing style, no matter how passionate, might not foster the deepest connections.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between sharing your authentic self and creating space for the other person to share theirs. What about humor? I know some people are naturally very funny and others not so much.
Humor is definitely a powerful element of personal style. If you're naturally witty, great, use it. But if you're not, forcing jokes can fall flat. Instead, you might have a style that's more about lighthearted observations, or perhaps a dry, subtle wit. Or maybe your style is more about finding the humor in everyday situations through your commentary. It's about finding the kind of humor that resonates with you and feels comfortable. Sometimes, simply having a good sense of humor about yourself and the situation can be incredibly disarming and charming.
So, it's not about being the funniest person in the room, but about having a style that incorporates appropriate levity for you.
Precisely. And this also ties into adapting your style to different situations. You wouldn't necessarily use the exact same conversational approach with your grandmother's bridge club as you would at a tech industry conference. While the core of your style remains yours, you might adjust your tone, your vocabulary, or the types of topics you initiate to best connect with that specific audience.
That's a really important point. It's not about changing who you fundamentally are, but about being adaptable.
Absolutely. And this journey of developing your unique conversational style is ongoing. It evolves as you grow, as you have new experiences, and as you interact with more people. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try sharing a bit more of your authentic self. See how people respond. And importantly, pay attention to how you feel. Do you feel drained after a conversation? Or do you feel energized and more connected? That's your internal compass guiding you toward a style that truly serves you.
That feeling is so important. When a conversation feels natural and easy, it's because your style is probably well aligned with the moment. It's like wearing comfortable shoes. You can walk so much further.
A perfect analogy, Lisa. So, to recap and solidify, developing your unique conversational style is about embracing your natural personality, drawing inspiration from others without imitation, sharing your authentic interests and passions, balancing your expression with active listening, and adapting appropriately to different contexts. It's about letting your true self shine through in your interactions.
It's about being confident in your own voice, in your own way of connecting. It's a journey of self-discovery, really, that enhances all the other small talk skills we've been learning.
Indeed, we'll be discussing the power of vulnerability in connection in our next episode.
Grateful for this deep dive into personal style.
Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Last time, we explored developing your unique conversational style.
Yes, Alex. We discussed how finding your authentic voice makes interactions more natural and enjoyable, helping you present your best self.
Now we're building on that authenticity by exploring the power of vulnerability in connection.
Vulnerability can sound intimidating. How does it fit into small talk and building connections?
Small talk lays the foundation. Vulnerability is like adding windows and personal touches to make a space feel like home. It's the willingness to share your inner world, even with a risk.
A risk of what, exactly?
A risk of not being understood, of being judged, or of feeling exposed. But overcoming that fear is precisely what builds trust. Think of it as offering a small, genuine piece of yourself.
So, it's not about oversharing everything, but about selective, authentic sharing?
Exactly. It's about finding the right moments and the right depth. This isn't about unloading all your problems. It's about sharing a personal thought, a relatable feeling, or a meaningful experience that goes a little deeper than surface level topics.
Can you give us an example of how this might look in a conversation?
Imagine you're at a networking event and someone asks how your presentation went. Instead of just saying it was fine, you might say it was a bit nerve-wracking beforehand, actually. I always get butterflies before a big talk, but it felt good to get out there.
Ah, I see. That's relatable. Many people feel nervous before public speaking. It makes you human.
Precisely. You shared a genuine feeling that many can connect with. This creates a bridge. It signals, I'm not just presenting a perfect facade. I'm a real person with real emotions. This encourages the other person to open up too.
So, vulnerability in small talk is about showing your human side, not perfection.
Yes, it's about creating that human connection. When we're vulnerable, we signal that we're trustworthy and that we're willing to be authentic. This can accelerate the process of building rapport and deepening a connection beyond a mere acquaintance.
How does this connect to empathy, which we've discussed before?
Empathy is about understanding and sharing the feelings of another. When you show a little vulnerability, you allow others to empathize with you more readily. You're giving them an opportunity to see your perspective and perhaps relate their own experiences to yours. This mutual exchange fosters a stronger bond.
It sounds like a delicate balance, though. How do you know what's appropriate to share?
That's where self-awareness and reading the room come in. Start small. Notice the other person's comfort level. If they're also sharing a bit more personally, that's an invitation. If they're keeping things very light, it's best to match their energy. The goal isn't to shock or overwhelm, but to invite a deeper level of sharing.
So, it's a gradual unfolding, not a sudden revelation.
Correct. And it's often about sharing a past experience or a current feeling that's relatable, rather than something overly negative or highly sensitive. For instance, you might share a minor frustration about travel delays or express excitement about an upcoming personal project.
It's about showing that you have a life and feelings outside of the immediate context of the conversation.
Exactly. It humanizes you. When people feel you are approachable and real, they are more likely to trust you and want to engage with you further. This moves the conversation from transactional small talk towards a more meaningful connection.
So, instead of just asking someone about their job, you might ask about what they enjoy about it or a challenge they've overcome.
That's a great example, Lisa. Asking about challenges or what someone enjoys can naturally lead to sharing a bit more personal insight. It opens the door for them to share a story or a feeling, and that's where the magic happens. It's the difference between knowing what someone does and starting to understand who they are.
It's like turning strangers into acquaintances and acquaintances into potential friends.
Precisely. And it's a skill that can be practiced. It starts with a willingness to be a little uncomfortable, to step outside your comfort zone. This willingness is what allows others to feel safe enough to be vulnerable with you in return. It creates a positive feedback loop of trust and openness.
So, to recap, vulnerability in connection isn't about oversharing, but about strategically sharing personal thoughts, feelings, or experiences to build trust and create a more human connection.
That's a perfect summary. By showing our authentic selves, we give others permission to do the same. This deepens conversations, builds stronger rapport, and moves us beyond superficial exchanges. It transforms small talk from a mere formality into a powerful tool for forging genuine bonds.
It really highlights how meaningful connection comes from showing up as ourselves.
It does. And it's a vital step in making those connections last. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Last time, we explored the power of vulnerability. Today, we're discussing maintaining relationships over time.
It's easy to have a great conversation in the moment, but how do we keep those connections alive and prevent them from fizzling out? It's like tending a garden. You can't just plant seeds and walk away.
Exactly, Lisa. It requires consistent care, and often small, consistent efforts make the biggest difference. Think of it as nurturing a friendship or a professional relationship. What are some ways you stay connected with people you value?
I try to remember key details. If a friend has a big presentation, I'll make a note and ask how it went afterward. It shows I was listening and genuinely care about their life. It's about showing up, even with a quick message.
That's a fantastic point. Remembering details provides a specific reason to reach out beyond a generic "how are you?" This applies to both personal and professional spheres. In networking, remembering someone's industry challenges or projects allows for meaningful follow-up. It's about being a reliable presence.
And I think it's also about adapting your communication. For some friends, a quick text might be perfect. For others, a phone call or a handwritten note might be better. It's about understanding what works for that person and the relationship.
Absolutely. Personalization is key to relationship maintenance. Proactive check-ins are also important. Instead of waiting, pick a time every few weeks or months to touch base. Share an article you think they'd find interesting, a funny anecdote, or just a simple thinking of you. This reinforces an ongoing connection.
And Alex, how do we maintain professional connections without seeming like we're always asking for something that can feel transactional and erode trust?
That's a crucial distinction. The goal is genuine connection, not just networking. When you reach out professionally, frame it around shared interests or providing value. If you see a news item related to their field, share it with a brief note like "saw this and thought of you." No expectation of anything in return, just shared professional courtesy. This positions you as engaged and helpful.
So, it's offering value without an immediate agenda. And I think it's important to acknowledge that relationships evolve. People move, careers change. Maintaining a connection doesn't always mean replicating its initial intensity. It can be about acknowledging shifts and still finding a way to stay in touch, even if less frequently.
Precisely. We need to be realistic and adaptable. Acknowledging that life gets busy shows understanding and empathy. A simple message like, "Hey, I know things have been hectic, but want to send a quick note to say I'm thinking of you. No need to reply, just wanted to connect," can go a long way. It takes the pressure off both parties.
That's a great way to put it, taking the pressure off. So, to recap, maintaining relationships over time involves several key elements. First, being consistent with small, thoughtful gestures. Second, remembering and referencing specific details from their lives. Third, personalizing your communication style.
And fourth, initiating proactive, value-driven check-ins. Don't be afraid to reach out, even with a shared article or a brief thought. And finally, be adaptable and understanding as relationships naturally evolve. It's about finding a sustainable way to stay connected.
It really boils down to showing up consistently and genuinely. It's about making the effort to let people know you value them beyond the initial introduction. That ongoing narrative builds truly lasting connections.
Well said, Lisa. The maintenance phase of relationships is where true strength and longevity are built. So, as you practice your small talk skills, remember to plant seeds for future interaction and then nurture them with care. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. We're exploring compliments and appreciation today.
When we feel seen and valued, it makes a huge difference. Genuine compliments are fantastic sparks of positivity. Alex, what's the key to effective compliments?
The absolute key, Lisa, is sincerity and specificity. A genuine compliment comes from the heart and is more impactful when you point out something specific. Instead of, "You're great," try, "I admire how you handled that challenging client with patience and professionalism. It was impressive." One is vague. The other highlights a specific action and a positive quality.
I love that example. It makes the recipient feel truly observed, not just receiving a generic pat on the back. So it's not just what you say, but how and what you focus on. Are there different types of compliments?
Absolutely. We can compliment someone's effort or skill, like we just discussed. We can also compliment their personality or character. For example, "Your sense of humor always brightens the room," or "I appreciate your quiet determination. You always see things through." Compliments about appearance can sometimes be trickier depending on the context. It's often safer and more meaningful to focus on inner qualities or actions.
That makes sense. For appearance, keeping it general and appropriate for the setting is best, like, "That's a lovely scarf," rather than anything too personal. What about appreciating actions, like if someone helps you?
That's where expressions of appreciation come in, and they're vital for strong relationships. It's not just about saying thank you. It's about conveying the impact their actions had on you. So, instead of "Thanks for your help," try, "Thank you so much for helping me with that report. I was really struggling to meet the deadline, and your assistance saved me a lot of stress and made a huge difference." This adds weight and sincerity.
So, you're emphasizing the story behind the thank you, the problem, and how their help solved it. They understand the value of their contribution. We assume people know they've helped, but spelling it out can be very powerful.
Exactly. And this ties back to active listening. By paying attention to what others are saying and doing, you'll naturally identify opportunities for genuine compliments and sincere appreciation. You'll hear about their challenges, triumphs, and efforts, giving you rich material for positive feedback.
It creates a positive feedback loop. When people feel appreciated, they continue positive behaviors and feel more connected to the person who acknowledged them.
Precisely. Now, let's talk about the flip side, receiving compliments. Many people find it difficult to accept praise gracefully. What's the best way to respond?
This is a big one. The instinct for many is to deflect or downplay it. You know, "Oh, it was nothing." The most effective approach is a simple, sincere thank you. You can then add a brief, positive acknowledgement if appropriate. For instance, if someone compliments your dress, say, "Thank you. I was so glad it fit well for the occasion."
Yes, a simple thank you is often all that's needed. It acknowledges their gesture. If you want to add more, you could turn it back positively, but carefully. For example, if someone compliments your presentation skills, say, Thank you. I appreciate that. I really enjoyed working on that project, and I'm glad it came across well.
That's a great way to acknowledge their feedback and share your positive experience. It reinforces the connection. So, we have sincere, specific compliments, expressing appreciation by highlighting impact and receiving them with a simple, genuine thank you. Are there common pitfalls?
Definitely. One major pitfall is insincerity or flattery. People can usually tell when a compliment isn't genuine. It can feel manipulative. Another is overdoing it. Constantly showering someone with praise can dilute its value. Think of it like seasoning. A little enhances the flavor, but too much can ruin the dish.
That's a good analogy. And also being mindful of context. Some compliments are better suited for certain relationships or situations. A compliment about someone's analytical skills might be brilliant at work, but less relevant at a casual gathering and less tied to something specific.
Exactly. And a crucial point, especially for those who find social interactions challenging, is that practice makes perfect. Like any skill, learning to give and receive compliments effectively takes practice. Start small. Compliment a colleague on a specific task. Thank a friend for listening. Over time, it will feel more natural and become a powerful tool.
So let's recap. Compliments and appreciation are powerful tools for connection. The key is sincerity and specificity. Focus on effort, skill, personality, or the impact of actions. When receiving praise, a simple and genuine thank you is best. Avoid flattery and overdoing it, and be mindful of context and your relationship with the person.
That's a fantastic summary. Lisa, these aren't just about making someone feel good for a moment. They are about building trust, fostering positive relationships, and creating a warmer environment for everyone. By consistently offering genuine appreciation, you contribute to a much richer social landscape.
It truly does. It's a small effort with a big ripple effect.
Indeed. And that brings us to the end of episode 24. Next episode, Small Talk for Introverts, Finding Your Comfort Zone. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Last time, we delved into the art of compliments and appreciation. Today, we're turning our focus to a specific group who often interacts with small talk differently: introverts. If you identify as an introvert or know someone who does, this episode is for you. We're exploring how to find your comfort zone in small talk.
That's right, Alex. For many introverts, the idea of making small talk can feel daunting. It's not that they don't want to connect, but perhaps the energy expenditure feels higher or the focus is more on depth than breadth. So, how can introverts approach small talk in a way that feels authentic and energizing rather than draining?
Great question, Lisa. The first key is understanding that small talk doesn't have to be a barrage of superficial questions and answers. For introverts, it could be about quality over quantity. Instead of trying to engage with everyone in a large group, focus on one or two meaningful conversations. Think of it like choosing a few delightful appetizers rather than trying to sample every single item at an enormous buffet.
I like that analogy. So, instead of a broad, shallow approach, introverts can aim for deeper, more focused interactions. How does this translate into practical strategies when you're at a networking event or a social gathering?
One excellent strategy is preparation. Introverts often thrive when they have a moment to mentally prepare. Before an event, think about a couple of open-ended questions you'd genuinely be interested in asking. These aren't just generic icebreakers. They're questions that invite a more thoughtful response. For example, instead of "what do you do?" you might try "what's the most interesting part of your work that most people wouldn't realize?" or "what project are you most excited about right now?"
That's brilliant. It shifts the focus from a quick, almost transactional question to something that invites sharing and opens the door for a real conversation. And for an introvert, having a few well thought out questions can be an anchor, giving them something concrete to do and talk about.
Exactly. It gives them agency and reduces the pressure of having to come up with something on the spot. Another crucial element for introverts is managing their energy. Social interactions, especially small talk, can be taxing. So, it's vital to build in breaks. If you're at a longer event, step outside for a few minutes, find a quiet corner, or even just take a moment to observe. This isn't about avoiding people. It's about recharging so you can re-engage authentically.
That's so important. We often push ourselves to just keep talking, but for introverts, that can lead to burnout and a desire to escape altogether. Recognizing the need for breaks is a form of self compassion that allows for better engagement when you are interacting.
Absolutely. And let's talk about listening. Introverts are often excellent listeners. This is a superpower in small talk. Instead of feeling the need to constantly fill the silence, introverts can leverage their natural inclination to listen deeply. Active listening, which we've touched upon in earlier episodes, is your best friend. Focus on understanding what the other person is saying, ask clarifying questions, and show genuine curiosity. When you listen well, other people feel heard and valued, which fosters connection quickly.
So, the introvert's natural strength of deep listening can be a significant advantage in forming connections. It's about channeling that listening ability into asking follow up questions that show you're truly engaged. It's not just hearing words, but understanding the meaning behind them.
Precisely. And when it comes to sharing about yourself, introverts can be selective. You don't need to bare your soul to everyone. Share what you're comfortable with and let your authentic self shine through in those shares. Small, purposeful revelations can be more impactful than a flood of information. Think about sharing a brief, interesting anecdote from your week or a thought-provoking opinion on a topic you care about, rather than trying to give a full life history.
That makes sense. It's about offering pieces of yourself that invite further connection, rather than feeling obligated to overshare. It's a way of pacing the interaction. And what about the settings themselves? Are there certain environments that might be more conducive to introverted small talk?
Definitely. Smaller, more intimate gatherings can be more comfortable than large, noisy parties. Think book clubs, smaller workshops, or even one-on-one meetings. If you are a larger event, try to find smaller groups who are already in conversation. Joining an existing group can sometimes feel less intimidating than initiating a brand new interaction from scratch. And don't underestimate the power of shared activities. If there's an activity happening, like a game or a collaborative task, it provides a natural focus and reduces the pressure on constant verbalization.
That's a fantastic point, Alex. Shared activities give you something else to focus on besides the pure act of conversation, which can be a huge relief. It provides a natural buffer and talking points.
And for introverts who are concerned about perceived shyness or lack of conversational ease, it's important to remember that introversion is not the same as shyness. Introverts simply process information and gain energy differently. You don't need to become an extrovert to master small talk. You need to find strategies that work for your unique social energy and conversational style. It's about finding your comfort zone, not forcing yourself outside of it entirely.
So, to recap the key takeaways for our introverted listeners, focus on quality over quantity in conversations. Prepare a few thoughtful, open ended questions. Manage your social energy by taking breaks. Leverage your excellent listening skills. Share selectively to build connection. And choose environments and activities that feel more comfortable.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Remember, small talk is a tool for connection. For introverts, it's about using that tool in a way that resonates with your inherent strengths and energy levels, leading to more meaningful and less draining interactions. It's about finding your authentic voice in the world of conversation.
And building confidence by knowing that you can connect in ways that feel true to you. It's about making small talk work for your personality, not the other way around.
Absolutely. This has been a really insightful discussion on navigating small talk as an introvert. Next episode, small talk for extroverts, amplifying your natural strengths. Welcome back. Last time we explored strategies for introverts in small talk.
And today we're focusing on extroverts. They're naturally outgoing and energized by people, which is a huge advantage.
Exactly. But even with that natural gift, extroverts can refine their social tendencies to build deeper connections. Think of it like a powerful river. We want to help guide its flow for maximum impact.
So, it's about amplifying their strengths. Where should they start?
Mindfulness is key. While jumping into conversations is easy, actively listening and being present is crucial. Are you truly hearing the other person or just waiting to speak?
That means making space for their contributions, asking clarifying questions, and really absorbing what they say.
Precisely. And empathy. Extroverts can connect easily, but digging into the emotions behind words creates deeper bonds. Instead of just offering solutions, validate their feelings first.
A simple, wow, that sounds tough, can make a huge difference, showing you understand their experience.
Absolutely. And to amplify their natural impact, focus on authenticity and genuine curiosity. Remembering details about people shows you are truly engaged.
So, using that outgoing nature to make people feel seen and heard, rather than just dominating the conversation.
You've got it. It's about positive ripples. Intentionality in finding common ground adds another layer. Instead of just discussing surface level topics, actively seek out shared interests or experiences.
That makes sense for building anything beyond acquaintance, doesn't it? It's about moving from what do you do to what do you love.
Exactly. And remember, even though extroverts are energized by social interaction, it's important to be aware of conversational balance. Are you sharing your energy or are you overwhelming the other person?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a good conversation and forget to let others have their say.
It is. So practice pausing. Allow for silences, not as awkward gaps, but as opportunities for the other person to jump in. This shows respect for their voice,
And it gives you a moment to process what they've said rather than just reacting.
right? Another area for extroverts to hone is being a better storyteller. They naturally have many stories, but focusing on clarity and conciseness makes them more engaging.
So, get to the point, but still convey the emotion and essence of the experience.
Yes, and remember to tailor the story to your audience. What details will resonate with them? What's the core message you want to convey?
This isn't about changing who they are, but about making their natural conversational style even more effective and considerate.
Precisely. We're taking their innate social radar and fine-tuning it. Think about how you can use your energy to uplift and encourage others. Asking follow-up questions about their life and experiences can be very powerful.
It shows you're not just making conversation, but you're genuinely interested in them as individuals.
And this leads to strengthening relationships. By being mindful, empathetic, and intentionally seeking common ground, extroverts can foster deeper, more meaningful connections.
So, extroverts can harness their natural outgoingness by practicing active listening, showing genuine empathy, and being mindful of conversational balance. They can also refine their storytelling and intentionally seek common ground to build stronger relationships.
You've summarized it perfectly, Lisa. It's about leveraging those natural strengths with a touch of conscious effort. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Last time, we explored how extroverts can amplify their social strengths. Today, we're tackling a crucial topic, overcoming social anxiety in small talk.
Social anxiety can make small talk feel overwhelming, Alex. It's that knot in your stomach, the fear of judgment. Many people experience this, hindering their ability to connect. Today, we'll offer practical tools and a new perspective.
Social anxiety in small talk is often a fear of being judged, evaluated, or rejected. It leads to worries about saying the wrong thing or not being interesting enough. These fears can feel very real.
And those fears can be amplified. How can someone facing this start to manage those anxious thoughts and feelings?
The first crucial step is reframing your thoughts. Anxious minds jump to worst-case scenarios. Instead of everyone will see how awkward I am, try thinking some people might not connect with me, and that's okay. Others will. Challenge those automatic negative thoughts.
That's a great point. It's about questioning our assumptions about what others are thinking. What's another strategy for managing the immediate feelings of anxiety?
Mindfulness and grounding techniques are powerful. When anxiety arises, focus on your breath. Deep, slow breaths activate relaxation. You can also use your senses. Notice 5 things you see, 4 you touch, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, and 1 you taste. This brings you to the present moment.
That sensory focus is practical. It anchors you in the now, essential for genuine connection. Beyond managing immediate feelings, what about facing the situations that trigger anxiety?
Gradual exposure is key. Start small. If a large party is overwhelming, begin with a brief chat with a cashier or neighbor. Then, aim for a short conversation at a casual gathering. Build confidence through small, manageable successes. Don't start by lifting the heaviest weight.
So, we're gently increasing exposure to social situations. What if someone feels they have nothing to talk about, a common anxiety trigger?
Preparation helps, but not in a rehearsed way. Have a few open-ended questions ready that focus on the other person. Things like, what's been a highlight of your week? Or have you read any interesting articles lately? Or what brings you here today? These are conversation openers.
Shifting the focus to the other person can be liberating, taking pressure off you. We've discussed how people appreciate genuine curiosity.
Exactly. And let's address perfectionism. Many with social anxiety fear not being perfect. They worry about stumbling or not having witty responses. The truth is, nobody is perfect. Most people are more understanding than we think, and small imperfections humanize us.
That's important. We set high, often unattainable, standards. Instead of flawless, aim for connection. What about physical symptoms like blushing or trembling?
Those are often the most feared symptoms. Remember, people are usually more focused on their own internal experience. If you blush, you can even lightly acknowledge it. Oh, I tend to blush when I'm a bit nervous. This can diffuse anxiety about the symptom itself.
That's brave and effective. Normalizing it takes power away from the symptom. Alex, we've covered reframing thoughts, mindfulness, gradual exposure, conversation starters, and addressing perfectionism. Any final advice?
Yes, celebrate your wins, no matter how small. After an interaction, instead of replaying mistakes, focus on what went well. Did you initiate a conversation? Did you maintain eye contact? Did you ask a follow-up question? Acknowledge these efforts. Positive reinforcement is powerful.
That's a fantastic way to end. It's about acknowledging progress. To recap, overcoming social anxiety involves challenging negative thoughts and embracing a balanced perspective. We can use mindfulness to stay present. Gradual exposure builds confidence. Open-ended questions ease the pressure, and remembering that vulnerability and imperfection are humanizing can be freeing. Finally, celebrating small victories reinforces positive behavior.
Absolutely, Lisa. And remember, seeking professional help from a therapist specializing in anxiety can provide tailored support. This is a process, and you don't have to navigate alone. The goal isn't to eliminate anxiety entirely, but to manage it effectively to make meaningful connections.
An empowering message. We've equipped listeners with tools to face social situations with more confidence. Next episode, we'll discuss the long-term benefits of small talk mastery and how it enriches our lives.
Welcome back. Last time we dove deep into overcoming social anxiety. Today we're shifting focus to the exciting future, the incredible long-term benefits of all the skills we've been building.
That's a fantastic topic, Alex. It's one thing to learn how to navigate a conversation, but it's so motivating to think about how these skills can truly transform our lives over time.
Exactly, Lisa. We spent a lot of time focusing on the mechanics, active listening, asking good questions, finding common ground. But what does mastering these techniques really give us in the long run? Think of it as planting seeds. We've been watering and tending to them, and now we're looking at the mature garden.
So, what are some of the biggest long-term payoffs we can expect?
Well, one of the most significant benefits is the profound impact on personal well-being. When you're comfortable initiating conversations, you feel less isolated. You build stronger relationships, and those connections are like a powerful buffer against stress and loneliness. Think about it. When you have people you can talk to, share your day with, or even just exchange a few pleasantries with, your overall sense of happiness and contentment increases.
That makes so much sense. It's like having a built-in support system that's accessible just by stepping outside your comfort zone a little. You feel more connected to the world around you.
Precisely. And this leads directly into another huge area: deeper, more meaningful relationships. We've talked about going beyond superficiality, remember? When you're skilled at small talk, you're also skilled at building rapport. That allows you to move from shallow interactions to genuine friendships and even stronger family bonds. You get to know people on a deeper level, and they get to know you.
I remember in episode 16, we discussed how to deepen relationships beyond superficiality. It's clear that the ability to initiate and sustain conversations is the gateway to all of that. If you can't even start talking, you'll never get to know anyone well enough to form those deeper bonds.
Absolutely. And these richer personal connections have a ripple effect. They often translate into significant career advancement. Think about networking. We touched on this in episode 19. When you can confidently approach people at industry events, strike up conversations, and leave a positive impression, doors begin to open.
So, it's not just about having a lot of contacts, but about having quality interactions that can lead to opportunities?
Exactly. People are more likely to recommend you for a job, collaborate on a project, or share valuable insights if they feel a connection with you, if they like and trust you. And that trust is often built in those initial, seemingly small conversations. It's about being memorable for the right reasons. You become someone people want to work with.
It's like building your personal brand, but through genuine human connection rather than just self-promotion.
That's a great way to put it. And beyond the immediate social and professional benefits, mastering small talk fosters a heightened sense of self-awareness and confidence. Remember episode 17, where we talked about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Practice in social situations helps you identify what you're good at and where you can improve. Each successful conversation, no matter how small, builds your confidence.
And overcoming those awkward moments we discussed, like in episode 8, or handling rejection as we covered in episode 20, those are huge confidence builders too. They teach resilience.
They absolutely do. You learn that a less than perfect conversation isn't the end of the world. It's a learning opportunity. And that resilience spills over into all areas of your life. You become more willing to take risks, try new things, and step outside your comfort zone in general.
It sounds like we're talking about building a more fulfilling and, dare I say, happier life overall.
That's the ultimate goal, Lisa. A life filled with richer connections, greater opportunities, and a strong sense of self. Think about the alternative: a life where you constantly feel hesitant to engage, where opportunities pass you by because you're not comfortable talking to people, and where loneliness can become a persistent shadow. The skills we've been learning are not just about pleasantries. They're about actively shaping a more positive and connected existence.
It really does seem to touch every aspect of our lives, from our closest personal relationships to our professional journeys, and even our own internal sense of well-being.
And it's a continuous journey. We've covered a lot of ground, from the absolute basics of breaking the ice in episode 2 to developing our unique conversational styles in episode 21 and embracing vulnerability in episode 22. These aren't skills you learn once and forget. They're muscles you continue to exercise and strengthen.
So, as we look ahead to the final episodes, what's the call to action for our listeners? How do they ensure they're reaping these long-term benefits?
The key is consistent practice and applying what we've learned. In our next episode, we'll be putting it all together, create a personalized action plan. We'll help you identify your specific goals and map out how to continue growing. It's about taking the knowledge and turning it into lasting habits.
That sounds like the perfect capstone to this journey. It's so important to have a roadmap for continuing our growth.
Indeed, we've covered the power of small talk, how to get started, how to listen, observe, connect, ask questions, share stories, navigate silence, express enthusiasm, handle difficult topics, exit gracefully, follow up, adapt to the digital age, build confidence, master different settings, deepen relationships, understand ourselves and others, network effectively, deal with setbacks, craft our style, be vulnerable, maintain connections, offer compliments, and find our comfort zones as introverts or extroverts. We've worked on overcoming anxiety, and now we're focusing on the long-haul rewards.
It's been an incredible series, Alex. I'm genuinely excited for our listeners to see how these skills can truly enrich their lives over the years to come.
Me too, Lisa. The ability to connect with others is one of the most fundamental human needs and skills. When you nurture it, the rewards are immeasurable. Next episode, putting it all together, your personalized action plan. Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery. Today, we're focusing on your personalized action plan.
That's right, Alex. We've covered so much from active listening to reading cues. Today is about making it work for you.
Exactly. The foundation of small talk is building meaningful connections, just like we discussed in episode 1. Today, we're building your blueprint.
So, how do we begin crafting this plan?
We start with honest self-awareness. Reflect on your strengths and challenges, remembering our episodes on overcoming social anxiety. Where are you currently comfortable, and what areas feel more difficult?
So, the first step is identifying your own starting point. For me, I know I'm good at listening, but I sometimes pause too long before responding.
That's a great insight. Step 2 is setting specific, achievable goals. Based on your self-assessment, what do you want to improve? If initiating conversations is tough, aim to start one each day. If keeping them going is a challenge, commit to asking more follow-up questions. Our episode on open-ended questions highlighted their power for keeping conversations flowing.
So, goals should be concrete. For instance, in my next 3 conversations, I will ask at least one follow-up question based on what the other person shares. That's measurable.
Precisely. Step 3. Identify the specific skills to practice. Which techniques feel most relevant to your goals? If networking is key, perhaps you'll focus on your concise introduction. If you want deeper connections, practicing active listening might be your focus.
Okay, so if my goal is to initiate more easily, I might focus on the find common ground technique, looking for shared interests to start with.
Excellent. Step 4 is creating a practice schedule. Consistency is vital. Like any skill, small talk improves with regular practice. How often will you actively work on this? Maybe 5 minutes daily, or dedicating specific social events to trying a new approach. This is where building confidence through practice really pays off.
A schedule makes it a habit. I could even plan to practice initiating a brief chat while waiting in line. It's about integrating these learnings into your daily life. Whether you're an introvert finding your comfortable space or an extrovert amplifying your natural gifts.
Absolutely. Step 5. Seek feedback and reflect. After practicing a skill or having an interaction, pause. What went well? What will be different next time? Don't shy away from asking a trusted friend for their honest thoughts. Keep a simple journal of your experiences. This loops back to self-awareness, fostering continuous improvement.
Reflection is key to learning. I can envision jotting down insights like, used more open-ended questions today, and the other person seemed more engaged, or felt anxious initiating, but it went better than expected.
That's the spirit. And finally, step 6, be patient and kind to yourself. Mastery takes time. Awkward moments will happen. Remember our talks on handling rejection? Every interaction is a learning opportunity. Celebrate your progress and understand that this is a journey of lifelong learning.
So, to recap the 6 steps for your personalized action plan: 1. Self-assess your current strengths and challenges. 2. Set specific, achievable goals. 3. Identify the skills you'll practice. 4. Create a consistent practice schedule. 5. Seek feedback and reflect regularly. And 6. Be patient and kind to yourself.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. This is about enhancing your natural abilities and creating richer, more meaningful connections. Imagine the opportunities that open up when you can confidently navigate social situations.
It truly is a skill that benefits every part of life. And the beauty of this plan is its flexibility. You can adapt it as you grow. It's a dynamic tool for building lasting connections.
This has been a practical episode, and I'm excited for our listeners to start building their plans. Remember, small talk mastery is a continuous journey. The skills you've learned are invaluable.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Small Talk Mastery, your guide to building meaningful connections. Today, we celebrate our final episode.
It's true, Alex. We've covered so much ground, from breaking the ice to navigating difficult conversations. And as we wrap up, the most important message is this: the art of connection is a lifelong practice.
Exactly, Lisa. We've equipped you with tools and techniques, but mastery isn't a destination. It's a continuous evolution. Think back to episode 1, where we discussed how even the simplest small talk can be the spar for something much bigger. Remember that feeling of anticipation, of wanting to connect, but perhaps not knowing where to start.
And now, here we are at the end of 30 episodes. We've learned about active listening, reading nonverbal cues, finding common ground, asking insightful questions, and sharing personal stories. We've even tackled how to handle awkward silences and graceful exits. It's a lot, but it all builds towards genuine interest and understanding.
It really does. We talked about the Navigator in episode 5, that part of you that guide conversations and helps you find those shared interests. And in episode 6, we explored openers and explorers, the types of questions that invite deeper engagement. These aren't just techniques. They're ways to genuinely see and appreciate the people around you.
And what about empathy? That was a huge part of our discussion in episode 18, the empathy engine. Understanding someone's perspective, even if you don't agree with it, is crucial for building trust and rapport. It's about putting yourself in their shoes, even for a moment.
That's right. And remember episode 22, the power of vulnerability in connection. Sharing a little of yourself, appropriately, can be incredibly disarming and can build bridges that seem much stronger than a perfectly crafted facade. It's the sweet spot between being guarded and oversharing.
We also discussed how to handle rejection, like in episode 20, handling rejection and negative interactions. It's not always going to be smooth sailing, and learning to bounce back from less than ideal interactions is a key part of growth.
Absolutely. And throughout this series, we've encouraged you to develop your own unique conversational style, as we covered in episode 21. It's about integrating these skills into who you naturally are, making them feel authentic rather than forced.
And for those who identify as introverts, episode 25 offered specific strategies to find comfort zones, while episode 26 helped extroverts amplify their natural strengths. We've seen how these tools can benefit everyone, regardless of personality type.
We even explored how to overcome social anxiety in episode 27, reminding listeners that progress, not perfection, is the goal. The idea is to take small, consistent steps that build confidence over time.
And building on that, episode 28 highlighted the long-term benefits, a life filled with richer connections. Think about the opportunities that open up when you can comfortably converse with a wide range of people. It touches every aspect of life, from personal friendships to professional networking.
Precisely. We talked about using small talk as a tool for networking success in episode 19. Those initial, simple conversations can lead to mentors, collaborators, and friends. It's about planting seeds.
And in episode 29, we brought it all together with your personalized action plan. You've got the knowledge now. The real magic happens when you start putting it into practice consistently.
So this is it, the end of our structured journey through small talk mastery. But it's just the beginning of your lifelong practice. Every conversation you have from this moment forward is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to connect more deeply.
Remember the foundational principle, genuine curiosity about others. When you approach interactions with a desire to understand and to be understood, the words naturally start to flow. It's about showing up, being present, and being willing to engage.
Keep practicing those active listening skills, keep observing nonverbal cues, and keep seeking common ground. Don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable, and certainly don't shy away from expressing genuine interest and appreciation.
And when you stumble, and you will, see it not as a failure, but as feedback. Adjust, learn, and try again. That resilience is what transforms a skill into a mastery.
We've journeyed through the power of small talk, from its earliest moments to its profound impact on our lives. Our hope is that you feel empowered, confident, and excited to continue building those meaningful connections.
It's been an incredible journey producing this series. Thank you for joining us. Keep learning, keep connecting, and keep making every conversation count.
Thanks for listening to the series.